Protect your ride with graphene nanospray coating. Now, boost protection, shine, and slickness with Graphene Detailer. Level up your detailing game. Harness the power of graphene with 303.
Ooh. Call Logano. Hey, Joey, you can save money if you fill up at Shell if you use Advanced Auto Parts Speed Perks.
Dude, I'm way ahead of you.
You saved at the pump?
Yeah, I saved at the pump.
The pump?
The pump.
He saved at the pump!
Woo! Now you can save at the pump when you shop at Advance Auto Parts. Learn more at advanceautoparts.com/gas rewards.
Now, it's my turn.
Coverage of GridLife Midwest is brought to you by Momo, made in Italy since 1964. And by Hyundai. It's your journey. Coverage of GridLife Midwest is brought to you by FCP Euro. Every part you buy is guaranteed for life. And by eBay Motors. Let's ride. And by Falcon. The Falcon Azenis RT660 is the official tire of Club TR.
Ferris Cartoony, 183, and sets a blistering new track record.
The start of summer in Michigan brings an annual trip to a tiny racetrack just off the eastern shore of Lake Michigan. Over 200 drivers circle their calendars for GridLife Midwest, and this year it returns to its traditional June date. GridLife brings the biggest festival and the greatest spectacle in Midwestern motorsports. For the thousands of fans that attend each year, this is the place where speed.
Hi everybody, Kyle Heyer, joined by Greg Kramer for the first broadcast of the weekend for GridLife Midwest here at GingerMan Raceway in South Haven, Michigan.
He's
Greg,
talking.
Welcome to
Do you hear me?
GingerMan Raceway as we get prepped for our first weekend of the streaming season here.
And Kyle, fortunately, we had a little bit of a technical issue there as you were talking about. This is a huge event, obviously a huge crowd already on hand. Everybody has been extremely excited about the numbers. I mean, look at that paddock. It is about as full as GingerMan Raceway's paddock can get. And the crowd, in terms of attendance, has been filling in heavily as well, much earlier than we've seen in the past. I think after a rough couple of years for a number of reasons, people are really excited to be able to get out and take part of this. A huge field here in all three of the divisions. We have the drifting, we have, of course, GRIDLIFE Touring Cup, which will be coming up in a little bit, and track battle, which is underway right now, the time attack track battle. And I mean, look at the stands are filled. People are anxious.
This is a fantastic event, and I'm glad we got some backup gear. So I'm ready to go.
All right.
We're all set up here. We're expecting thousands of spectators here this weekend. Nearly 300 drivers this weekend, which is phenomenal. We've got, as you mentioned, the track battle grid is over 100 drivers long. The GRIDLIFE Touring Cup, nearly 60 drivers in the field. First up here in a couple moments is going to be track battle Group B, and some brand new graphics for this season as well to bring you the action. We've got class colors also, so we'll be able to talk about the different classes and what those mean here in just a couple of moments. But look at the fans they've packed in-house. This is the first return to June for the festival since 2019. That was my first festival ever, Greg. So it's glad to be back here with full festival group here in June. Can't wait.
and this is my first festival ever, and it's really been remarkable. This track certainly presents some fun challenges. There's no question about it. But wandering around here on yesterday when I got in a little early and just explored a huge performance stage, vendors of every description you can imagine, and fans that are just absolutely jacked, really, to be here and be ready to take part in this. I mean, it really doesn't get much better than this. High-speed racing during the day and early evening. Fun rock and music during the nighttime, a little bit of everything.
Yeah, and I know I shouldn't say this, but the weather is absolutely gorgeous, Greg. I'm afraid to say that because typically in June here, we get those massive storms that fly on through. A couple years ago, there were tents flying around, but absolutely gorgeous weather, sunny, a little bit of a breeze here. Lots of fans packed up against the fence to watch the weekend's action. We also can show you the 3D track map here in just a moment and give you a tour of GingerMan Raceway, the 2.21-mile track built back in 1995. Of course, it was extended a couple of years after that. In 2004, I believe, they added that Turn 10B. You got a chance to drive around this morning and had quite a blast.
I did. You were kind enough to loan me your car, and you take a look here down that front straight, the pit straight into turn 1, and you flow a lot more speed through 1 than you think. You get to 2, and you can actually chuck it in there a little bit because it climbs. Turn 3, very tricky braking zone because it flattens out, and then you dive into the corner, falling away. 4 is flat. 5 is a balancing act into 6 with some heavy braking. Then you launch out of that. 7, you notice it's increasing radius, so you turn in early, float way out wide so you can get back and get it rotated into 8 through 9, and then into turn 10. And literally turn 10, it comes over a blind brow and it turns. I found that out the hard way this morning, and but we got through it, and then back on that long straight down into the 90-degree turn 11, probably the best overtaking area of the track. The way to describe this track is, you think about a Road Atlanta or a Sonoma or whatever, massive elevation change. Here the elevation change is a lot more subtle. But Tom O'Gorman put it really well. He said, this track doesn't have elevation change so much as it has sort of just a little topography to it. You know what I mean? But that doesn't mean there's not consequence. As you said, a number of blind approaches and then fall-away braking zones. Really tricky to get around here well. And talking to Adam Jabay, who, of course, is the director of this whole thing, he said you can get to 95% around this track pretty easily. That last 5%, really tough to figure out.
It does have a claim to fame that it's one of the safest racetracks in North America. Built back in 1995, so relatively recent as far as racetracks go, and that's a great thing. There's really not a lot to run into here. There's really only one wall on the front straightaway, so I've heard this place described as a place you can attack really aggressively without a lot of consequence. Now, we have seen consequences in the past. Think back to Eric Catil back in GRIDLIFE Touring Cup here at Midwest in the fall. Had a brake failure going off into turn 11 at north of 130 miles an hour. Managed to spin the thing around and drive up onto the berm and race the next day and then win. But there is places you can go off in a big way here.
There is. There's tons of runoff. None of it is paved. None of it has gravel in it. So you're going to travel a ways. But if you don't overreact, you're going to be able to get the car under control. Then you just ease it back onto the track, and you're able to continue as we have our track battle group heading out onto this 2.21-mile, 11-turn track. And there you can see that's pit out is actually inside of 1. This is turn 2, and you can see that little bit of elevation where you can really throw it in there a little bit deeper than you think, and you will get some bite. And when I said there's consequence, it's really, it isn't so much consequence in terms of potential crash damage or whatever. It's consequence in terms of lap time. If you get it wrong, it's going to cost you, because the nuance of this place is really subtle, but it's critical.
Absolutely, and this is the number 86 Toyota Supra, the TA90 from PhD Racing. Typically, this would be Jackie Ding. Jackie was planning on showing up this weekend, found out he had COVID right before he came. So behind the wheel today and this weekend is Alex Lee, who's typically the crew chief on this car. It's been a long time since he's climbed behind the wheel of one of these cars here in Track Battle. Thrilled to have him back with us on the racetrack here this weekend. Really excited to have this car here. This is a very capable car in the street modified category. Let's talk about the classes here just a little bit. Later this weekend, we'll have a nice grid to show you what the different classes mean. But once the ticker pops up, we got our class showing all the colors. The street modified cars are going to be the cars with the teal number colorations. Okay. The red are the unlimited cars. We shouldn't have any of those in this category. And then we're going to have gray for Club TR. That's the Falcon Club TR category, as well as pink for. Oh, we do have it. Look at those guys. They were cranking on that. So the pink Falcon Sunday Cup, then gray Falcon Club TR. Street is the dark blue. Street GT is the gold. Street Mod is the teal. Then Track Mod in orange, and Unlimited in the red. So we'll have that colored on the ticker here momentarily. Give a shout out to all the partners and people that make this happen on the bottom right of the screen as they rotate, as ticker pops up. And we're beginning to roll for Time Attack Group B here in GridLife Midwest. So Alex Lee takes the first couple of corners and Alex Lee into turn 10B now, past the Valvoline boards into turn 10B and heading up the other side of the racetrack. This is where this car is going to gather momentum and pace. Two different modes. They've got a kill mode on this car. Gets you north of 600 horsepower, heading down the back straightaway into turn number 11, past the FCP Euro boards. And again, we mentioned Alex Lee, crew chief typically on this TA90 Supra. Filling in for Jackie Ding, who's out. Hope you feel better, Jackie. We're missing you and hope you can make it to the next one. But out of turn number 11 and across the line, Alex Lee. See what he puts down for the first lap of the weekend here. 138.249. Bronson McNeamer goes on top of the board. Then Ben Lynn with the new Advanced Auto Parts livery for the Gears and Gasoline team jumps to the top of the board at 137.441. Again, the blue, that signifies street class for Ben Lynn. So Lynn goes to the top of 137.441. Feingold, Boersma, Basinski, and more on track. Again, the colorations, all your typical class colors. Another way you can find out what classes are what, we've got our key here on the right, or you can head to grid.life and check out the classes page with full descriptions of how you can get involved and what is involved with each class. But we also have our Super Unlimited class. I don't think we have any of those cars here this weekend, Greg, but certainly we have a stout field.
And in those classes, you also, in some of them, you've got front drive and rear drive categories as well, correct?
Yeah, so within that, we don't break that down on the ticker.
Right.
They're all counted in the same category, but there are separate championships or separate scores for each drivetrain. But there is Ben Lynn in that number 65, brand new Advanced Auto Parts livery on it. Looks fantastic. It has sort of that matte finish. And Greg, one of the things I love about GridLife is, yeah, people put effort into their cars from a mechanical standpoint, but they're also some of the prettiest track day cars you're going to find anywhere in North America.
They truly are. I mean, they just put everything into it. You know, all of their toil and sweat in terms of getting performance out of it, but they're proud of it. And so these cars are incredibly well turned out, just really sharp looking. And in Group B, right now, Lynn is a 1/10 of a second off of the time set by Steve Luca, who runs in Street GT. Luca ran a 137.3 yesterday for the fastest time in the final, the evening practice session for the track battle group, which tells me that this track, it's a little cooler today than it was yesterday generally. So I think the track is in really good shape, even though there's just been immense amounts of sun beating down on it all day. It isn't a dark pavement that retains heat too much, and the track seems to be pretty quick, and to be in the heat of the afternoon, literally almost within a 1/10 of the best time set yesterday evening. Obviously, they are getting after it here.
Yeah, the session is being shortened or stopped here momentarily. A black flag on course, which means all drivers must return to pit lane. So there's something somewhere that they want to deal with, whether it's fluid down or a car off somewhere. Got Hyundai banner boards over there on the entrance to turn number 3. Hyundai's here this weekend giving ride-alongs in their Hyundai Elantra N TCR. So hopefully we'll have a couple of the drivers join us later today or tomorrow to chat a little bit.
Yeah, no less than Brian Herta Autosport.
Yeah, Brian Herta Autosport. Yeah,
cool.
They brought 2 of those Elantra N TCRs. And they have a couple couple of their Elantra N street cars that they're giving ride-alongs in this weekend. Everyone that's been in them has looked like they were having a blast.
Oh, those TCR cars scoot, don't they?
They really
move.
do. they certainly do, and they're north of 300 horsepower, turbocharged, straight-cut gears, so they have that whine as they roll down the pit lane. They're
Light,
cool stuff.
Yeah, and very aero, too, which makes them a lot of fun to drive here. You know, one of the things about this track we were talking about a little bit, and with this stoppage, we have an opportunity, is there's a few corners here that you have to exercise that thing that's very tough for drivers who want to go fast to do, and that's be patient and be disciplined. There are lots of turns where you've got to wait before you turn in, and the natural tendency is you want to start easing in early, and if you do that, you're just absolutely slow on the exit of the corner, and that's part of what, you know, the nuance that I was talking about with this track is it's got its little things. And there are a couple of spots on the track where, you know, you would think, oh, I better lift here, but right, because it's falling away, and right when you think that, it actually flattens out and in essence gives you a little bank, so you can carry that throttle a little bit. And the other thing I wanted to point out is clearly this weekend in this event, I'm the good announcer and you're the evil announcer.
Is that what it is? Yeah, we got our shirts, and we're not quite matching. It's the yin yang over here.
Exactly.
Sure. But yeah, so again, stoppage here early in our first stream session of the weekend. We've got lots coming for you. We've got Jared DeAnda and Sam Nalvin and Greg Bucell going to be here for your drift coverage a little later today. But we will have GRIDLIFE Touring Cup qualifying. We've got 57 cars, which is a record-breaking number, including an entry from Hart, Alabama. They've got their 2018 Honda Odyssey here, their minivan, and the Rudd's Racing Chevrolet S10 in Days of Thunder colors.
I know, it looks great. And I mean, some of the liveries, I got to say, in GLTC are just stunning. You know, some are sort of homage liveries, and others are just fun and creative, and that's what makes it really cool and exciting. You know, to get here is you know, a lot of people here not only love going fast, but they also grasp the history of things just a little bit. And I just wanted to point out here, while we have a stoppage, you know, obviously all the years you've been doing this, still relatively new to me, and at this event in particular, I now fully understand the GRIDLIFE concept of motorsports inclusion. Because, you know, you think about what's happening in motorsports in general in the future. Well, if we don't get younger people interested in motorsports, you know, then we're going to have some issues. This group does it incredibly well, because you wander through the paddock here. Yeah, you've got some of the older folks that have been racing for a while and all that, but there's lots of youth here that are energized and pumped about it. And whether you want to drift, whether you want to, you know, time attack, whether you want to actually door-to-door race, or whether you just, you know, the car shows, everything here, it's very inclusive.
And inclusion goes beyond just the different kinds of racing that you want to do, or the, you know, the age that you are. It's Pride Month. We've got a couple cars out there in GLTC that have some very bright colors. Tom O'Gorman is working with, of course, Pride Motorsports, so he's going to have their logo on the hood here this weekend. He had bubbles shooting out the car on the grid walk earlier, which I thought was great. So Tom
caught a lot of eyeballs.
Tom is here and has that color, those colors represented all over the car. Patrick Reyes has a brand new livery, and forgive me, I have to look up the name of this artist again, but the livery is a kind of a florally daisy sort of paint scheme. Great colors on that car by Takashi Murakami is the source of that design, and we'll see that a little bit later here in qualifying. So inclusion goes beyond just your age and what you want to do. It extends to everybody. So
well, and it's cool, you know, that Pride Racing you were talking about. I mean, they have a direct association with Aston Martin Formula One. They're very, very involved in Europe with lots of stuff. They have an association with W Racing, you know, the W Series, the all-women series. And now with Out Motorsports, which is the group that was formed here in the U.S., and taking on some of these drivers and a couple of them here, it takes that inclusion to a whole new, and I must say, hugely overdue level.
Oh, absolutely. And I think, you know, the younger audience, it's so important to keep everything affordable, too. And if you look at the entry fees for something like this, to be a part of this, it isn't crazy. And that's great, because, you know, young people that are trying to get in motorsport, often the cost is one of the biggest things. So great feeder system from HPDE into TrackBattle and GLTC and drift, sort of all at one level. You get to drift with the pros also. It's a really cool thing. Here's Ben Thorne, by the way, Valvoline livery, big slide through turn 3. This is the number 66 in Club TR. Glad to have Ben back with us this season in that number 66 car. Wildly successful last season in this class. Has Valvoline colors all over it here, and setting up on his warm-up lap here as we get back to track battling here in Group B.
That's through turn 6, climbing up now into turn 7. And this is where that patience comes in. You turn in early here to 7, and then watch, he arcs out, but look how long he has to stay out there, because if you turn in too soon, you're absolutely offline for this flick into 8 and then setting up into 9. And you get out of 9, it's another long floating it almost flat out run up into that turn 10 right here that, as I said, will catch you out if you're not prepared for it. And then that longest straight that they come out of right here. So again, patience is important here. And the more power you have, the more important patience is to not spin up the wheels, whether it's front or rear. So, when you're driving a big horsepower car, you need to, work on getting it a little bit more straight before you start to feed it throttle. Just all those little things that make it exciting. And you see there's no gravel, there's no paved runoff, there's some exit curbing. I love it here in the driver's meeting. Adam Jabay was explaining what their concept of track limits is, and it reminded me of Mario Andretti's idea about track limits, because it applies here. He said, if you don't want me to drive on it, don't pave it.
Yeah, thankfully they didn't do a ton of pavement beyond the racetrack here,
Exactly.
so you're going for a ride through the grass if you make a mistake there. There's a good look at the number 114, and I have to reference my entry list for this sort of thing by this point in the weekend. We have so many drivers that it's just hard to keep track of every single one.
This is the car when I was watching yesterday that what you're hearing versus what you're watching just doesn't align, because it's a Mazda MX-5, I think.
Yes. With
a thumping V8 in the front. And it comes by you and you go, this is just wrong. It's cool, but it just is wrong. It's amazing.
And that's what I love also, because, this happens in Touring Cup and in track battle. Engine swaps and that sort of thing in most of our classes are fair game, so you can really create whatever you want to create. And that makes things very interesting, right? I mean, a lot of track days have, Miatas. Not a lot of track days have Miatas like this. No. And you can build whatever you want, whatever your heart desires, and run it in something here amongst our 8 competition classes.
Well, one of the things that I love is, for the GLTC, the Touring Cup had a pit walk where people could come up and wander through and look around. And you look at what's been done to some of these cars, and, what's cool is if you have a car that's a high-performance car in terms of not just the engine, but suspension, design and all of that, but the engine is a really expensive component of it, you can take that engine out and put in a cheaper engine that makes similar power or whatever, that is just a lot cheaper to maintain, a lot cheaper to replace if you need to do that, and keep your costs down that way. And you don't sacrifice the handling of the car because you still got that great design underneath it. But the power plant doesn't have to be as complex with the management systems and all that. It just has to be able to put power down when you want it to.
Absolutely. Other class that we haven't mentioned yet today is the Street GT category. Look down in 8th place overall. Kenan Prusank in the 773. That's a 2020 Chevrolet Camaro SS1LE. Street GT's built for your American muscle, but we also see a ton of Toyota GR Supras in that category as well. It's really well built for that class, or that car in particular. PhD Racing's running 3 or 4 of those Supras here this weekend in that category. Andrew Sonneville's here, the number 12. Again, there's one of our Falcon Club TR cars. Grant Davidson in the number 74, the 39.7. That, again, Club TR, think of GLTC, but time attack version. The rules are different, but the car pace is very similar. That would be a really decent time in our GRIDLIFE Touring Cup field for Grant Davidson in a car that would almost drop right in.
And Alex Lee, as you were talking about, it just went to the top overall in this session at a 1:43.429 and taking his street modified entry right up to the top of the sheets. But and that's a great point. That Club TR, if you've got, as you said, designs maybe on actually eventually getting into door-to-door racing, Well, with GridLife, you can go through the HPDE, which is High Performance Driver Education, and learn how to handle the car at speed. You know, learn the physics. And let's be honest, folks, a fast lap around any racetrack is applied physics. That's all it is. So you get that level of instruction. Then you can come here and then just work on your speed, on really hustling the car, figuring it out. And then your next step, you can step into Touring Cup and start going door to door.
Absolutely. Here's a look at Alex Westergaard, the number 35 for Speed Freaks USA and Torque Team Racing. He might be cooling down at this point. Looks like he's a little off pace, and yes, he's going to shoot off the racetrack. He's in a 2000 Honda S2000. That's a street mod car at Wheaton, Illinois. And there is, what are we looking at? Is that one of our Porsche 911 GT3 RSs?
Look like it might be, yeah.
Off into turn number 1. There's a couple of those. And through turn 1, setting up now for turn 2, but again, a little bit of a reduced pace here. 16 minutes into this session, we are running low on time for Group B. Then we'll get to see, possibly only for one time, there's the checkered flag. In Group C, we're going to get to see the Sunday Cup field, the Falcon Sunday Cup field. If you want to have the most fun for the least amount of money, get a Honda Fit, come run Sunday Cup with us.
Yeah, I mean, the cars are all by design. They're some would say underpowered. But you know what? That's almost more difficult to drive, because when you've got a car that is underpowered for its weight, momentum is everything. And if you learn how to hustle those cars and be able to put up significantly and consistently quick lap times in a car that's underpowered, then you're golden no matter where you go, because you grasp the concept of momentum.
Momentum racing, and you'll talk to a guy like Tom O'Gorman, he'll tell you that momentum racing and learning how to go fast in something slow is really the best way to work your way up into faster and faster cars. So,
well, Dorsey Schrader told me once the reason that he won the Trans Am Championship, and I'm talking back in the glory days of Trans Am, won the Trans Am Championship as a rookie, was because of the 2 years, and he'd raced Formula B, Formula Atlantic, all that kind of stuff. But then he did 2 years racing in the SCCA's, at the time, Pro Spec Racer Series, which are underpowered little prototype cars. And it's all momentum. And he said what he learned there, even when he stepped up into Trans Am, and you're talking 900 horsepower beasts, everybody else has about the same power. If you can float that little bit more speed through and out of a corner, you're getting to terminal speed sooner than anybody else, and you can run them down and close on them, and it's a great training ground. And I mean, Tomo is a classic example of that. What he did in World Challenge, you know, when he started in the class that he started in was very much a momentum class, and then he's progressed, won another championship in World Challenge, went to win multiple races in IMSA, and it's the same story. So this Sunday Cup class is really a huge training ground, and as you said, the fun quotient in those cars is just off the hook.
It is, and I have to say I've ridden in a couple of those fits a couple of times with Pete Lindbergh, who's running here this weekend, and you'll be surprised how fast they can go when they're driven properly. So again, welcome again to GridLife Midwest Festival, live coverage here for our first festival of the 2022 season. Kyle Heyer joined by Greg Kramer as we await Group C of GridLife Track Battle Time Attack here at GingerMan Raceway. Again, absolutely gorgeous weekend. We've got Drift coming up after Track Battle, and then we'll head straight into GridLife Touring Cup qualifying at about 2 o'clock. So Drift coming up after Track Battle, then it'll be GLTC, and we get to watch 57 cars try to find out how to go fast on a racetrack when there's 56 other people also trying to go fast.
Yeah, it's going to be a real challenge. Finding that gap is going to be difficult. It's a longer qualifying session than we've had before for that very reason. It's some 45 minutes in length, and the idea is go out, put your 2-3 laps in, then pit, because you got to cool the tires off anyway. Don't be cooling them off in traffic that's trying to get a fast lap, right? So duck into the pits, let things cool, find a gap, go back out, and hopefully that will mitigate a little bit of of all those cars on track at one time and give everybody a good opportunity to go after it. It's still going to be challenging, and it's going to be exciting, because the practice sessions have showed us that there's a lot of people in the hunt.
Absolutely. And all right, cars rolling now for Group C here in GridLife Track Battle Time Attack. Heading into turn 4, here's a good look at Patrick Daugherty in this gray Honda Civic. Patrick with Valvoline And I always love talking to Patrick. He's such a great dude to chat with. And this weekend, Valvoline had a really cool goodie bag, goodie bucket for the drivers at the registration area. Every single driver that was here, whether you were HPDE, Drift, Track Battle, or GLTC, got a little goodie bucket with a Valvoline logo on it. Had some gear oil in it, a couple pairs of gloves, a couple other things in there, a funnel. Just really cool thing that you got there, and everyone at registration goes, "Oh, really? For me?
Yeah.
Absolutely,
Yeah.
for everybody."
Nice.
And that's just great that Valvoline pitches in and makes this just so awesome for everybody. Not only us here in the booth, but down on the racetrack as well. So Patrick's having fun in his Honda Civic Type R, and this is another very, very capable race car. Even in its relatively stock form, he's got some Falcon RT 660s for shoes on that thing, and it scoots.
Yeah, the Falcon, they really have come up with an absolutely superb tire for this type of activity, one that isn't, priced so high that it's unattainable, and so it's a reasonable price and provides above reasonable performance. It doesn't get much better than that.
Certainly doesn't, and a handful of other cars on track right now. Mike Coon's Eddie Siegel in the number 470 for Acuity Instruments. He's on track now in the 470. This is a Dodge Charger Hellcat Red Eye, I believe, based on what I heard in the entry list. And not a lot of Dodges here, which is always great to see something a little different. There's a lot of, Hondas and Subarus and BMWs and Porsches, but not a ton from Dodge. And it's really great to see something loud and mean and American going around the racetrack here. Really neat. I'm trying to find on the entry list where he is. I know I checked in with him earlier this weekend.
Coming up now to that tricky turn 9. Again, turn 7, a lot of patience here. Then turn in for 8, flick it left. And you see, he turned in a little too soon, and you can see he had to actually hit the brake to get the nose to point into 9. And you want to come out of 9 already building speed. So he'll bank that and go, all right, now I understand. I got to stay out a little bit longer, and then get in there and be able to make that transition a lot smoother and thus quicker. Yeah,
this is Kevin Wesley, by the way, from Wesley Motorsports. He's got a history of bringing some big, fast, mean Mopar to the racetrack. And, of course, Wesley Motorsports, Kevin's out of Lansing, Michigan. This is a 2021 Dodge Hellcat Red Eye in our Unlimited class. And there he is sliding that thing around. A lot of squat in the car, too. It's definitely not light on its feet as far as track cars go. I think they're north of 4,000 pounds, so they're a little heavy out there. But Wesley right now, 138.685, goes to the top of the board in that Unlimited category. Eddie Siegel behind him in the 470. That's that Honda Civic Type R with the Acuity stickers on it, the purple and blue, a 141.901 first lap out. Ernestus Pizzellis in a track mod number 38. He runs 3rd overall right now.
Just loving hearing the sound out of this car. He picks up the throttle, and you can just hear it howl. But you can also tell as a result when he's balancing it on the throttle. This is one of those patience things. You come through 5, and you can carry more speed through 5 than you think, but if you get it wrong, then you either overshoot 6 or you can't at least get the nose turned into 6. So once again, you've got to be really patient. And now look at, again, that might be a little early on that turn in. Yep.
Wow, you saw how much that thing was leaning on the suspension, too. And it's definitely low to the ground, too. So that's probably helping because you don't have all that weight so high. Lowering that center of gravity is going to be a good thing when you've got so much weight to throw around. But it's probably hard to chase it through that sequence of corners, I'd imagine.
I would think. And, of course, the bigger and heavier a car is, that weight transfer just takes a little longer to happen. And as a result, it takes longer to get it to come back the other way. And that's one of the things with a car. It can have a lot of power, but if it's got a lot of weight to it, you've got to accelerate the weight, you got to slow the weight, and you got to transition the weight, and that takes its toll. But it's worth it when you hear that.
Yeah, a little quicker that time for Wesley at 37.958. Solidifies on top of the board.
Tank slapper there at the exit of 1.
Hanging it out. That's the fun thing with a lot of power and rear-wheel drive. I mean, maybe you're not going fast, but you might have a bigger smile.
You're grinning for sure. Up and into 3, and this is again, he'll be carrying a lot of speed up into 3, and then and you can see there a little wide of the apex. Did a nice job to hang on to it.
Heading into turn 5 and 6, and this is kind of a double apex. You can kind of treat this as one corner, or kind of arc it in, grab the first apex, drift out to the eBay Motors banners, and then turn it in tight. And there he does. That's a fun sequence of corners, too. There's a little bit of elevation there going uphill, and there's not a lot when you look at it just from ground level. When you get out there, you can certainly see. And the elevation kind of helps you exit that corner and lean. There's some rumble strip out there as well. Ooh, a little tight there. Point by in turn number 7. Another driver I notice on the board in Falcon Club TR, down in 8th overall, it's the 6'10 of Fez Bobber. He's on track in a very bright yellow Toyota GR86. That's the brand new GR86 that he is running. And he previously had a TRD version of the Scion FRS. And that car had an impact at Mid-Ohio last year. He fixed it up, but then got the new one and wrapped it in the TRD Yuzu yellow. And look out. Looks like Kevin Wesley is off track, and this might be, he might think he's losing some fluid, and in that case, he's doing exactly what he should be doing and keeping that fluid off track.
Yeah, he's not making an effort really to get back on track, so he believes he's got some sort of an issue.
Yeah.
Well played. I mean, that's...
Oh, great call to get off the course, right? I mean, if you're going to oil down something, you might as well oil down the grass, right?
Yeah. You don't want to have other drivers having to end a session because you've just oiled down the track. And if you sense it that quick, that was a class move.
Yeah, and hopefully it looks like he's not going to quite make it back to the pit lane area, so we might have to have recovery go and grab him. Some yellow flags waving in that sector at the moment as we head into turn 11. About halfway through this next group of cars. There's the number 27 Acuity car. There's a handful of those Civic EGs around the racetrack here this weekend. And we'll keep our eye on those in particular. Marone behind the wheel, hasn't yet laid down a full lap time. And there's the look at Fez Bobber's GR86. That is a sporty looking car, isn't it? Oh,
absolutely.
And look at the big wing. This is a new build. He's got a splitter on this car and a big wing for the first time this year. Ran this car back at our Bunny Bash back at NCM Motorsports Park a couple of weeks ago. And actually, that was all the way back in April. It was a couple months ago by this point. But he ran that essentially stock, just with some suspension and brakes. And now he's got a wing and a splitter to go with it. But this GR86 from the factory, 2.4-liter engine, Boxer Subaru engine, which is up about a half a liter from what it was previously. They kind of smoothed out the torque dip. And the previous car on a dyno stock would make 160 to 170 wheel horsepower. This will make 210. On a dyno.
Really?
Yeah, so a big pickup in power.
Serious, yeah.
And it kind of eliminated everyone's biggest complaint about the previous generation BRZ and FRS, which was it was just slow.
Yeah.
But
great handling.
It handles great, and that was never the issue. It was that mid-range torque, and they really smoothed it out with this car. And Fez, he's got a pretty great lineup. He's got a Tacoma pulling that thing around. He's got if you're a Toyota fan, Fez is your guy. So
rocking the brand. I love it.
I'm interested in the aerodynamics of this, and it'd be great to talk to 9 Lives Johnny, who makes a lot of the wings that people put on their cars here in Grid Life, about the efficacy of having that wing so high in relation to the roof line. I'm sure there's a reason for it being up there. If there's sort of an aero shadow, I'm not sure what the layer separation looks like on the air trailing off the rear windshield, but there's a lot of science and math that goes into optimizing stuff like that.
Yeah, I would think. And, you know, obviously when the air flows up and over the windshield and then over the top of the greenhouse, and keep in mind, folks, for those of you that maybe aren't really dialed into how the aerodynamics work, it's actually the underside of that wing that generates more of the downforce. So when they're moving that wing height around, they're trying to get it into the most effective airflow portion of it. If it's too high, the air doesn't get really cleanly to that rear wing, especially if it's accelerated over the top of the car. So that's what they're trying to do. If you're at a track where you don't want as much downforce, you might drop that wing down quite a bit farther, and then it just isn't going to be quite as effective. But at some tracks, you don't want that downforce because it creates drag and slows you down in a straight line. So they're always playing with it, aren't they? I mean, aerodynamics it's a science, but it's a black art.
Yeah, and there's some folks, Enzo Ferrari. Aerodynamics are for people who can't build engines, something like that. I'm not sure if I necessarily agree in totality with that statement, but
I understand the
I get where he's coming from. So there is that's actually Adam Jabay's Honda Fit driving the wrong way, and it looks like they're sending out the crew to go deal with Kevin Wesley's Dodge Charger Hellcat Red Eye that might have laid down oil. So Adam might be going to check out the track conditions there and see what they're like. But we got through the rest of the session. I might have to get that car towed back, but the hood going up, that's unfortunate. That's a lot of motor to have something could go wrong.
It is, and I mean, it not only was sounding good, but he was wheeling it, and you hate to see that happen. And hopefully it isn't something where where he's broken the engine, and it's something a little simpler to be able to to fix. So, I mean, it certainly has happened before where you just blow a hose coupling or something because of the pressure running through the engine. So hopefully it'll be something simple and he'll be able to get back out. Because there's a lot on track yet to come this week.
Oh, totally. And that's something we actually saw a lot. That was something that Jackie Ding and the PhD guys chased on their TA90 Supra originally, was just keeping couplings on in the engine bay, pushing so much boost. They just blow couplings off every time. It's so hard to contain all that pressure sometimes. So something like that could be a problem and would, in theory, be a relatively easy fix. So again, we're here at GingerMan Raceway in South Haven, Michigan for GridLife Midwest here in 2022. Kyle Heyer, joined by Greg Kramer. I'm not sure we're going to get a continuation of this session. We might get a few more minutes, but Drift is up next. Jared Anda and Sam Nalvin will be joining us here in the booth. We'll be stepping out for a couple minutes. We'll be back for our GridLife Touring Cup qualifying right after Drift. We'll also hopefully have Greg Bucell down in the pits as well, so we'll be able to pop in with him now and then. And Jared should be on pit lane with us for GLTC Race 1 later today, so bringing in a third component for the stream will be a lot of fun.
Well, it's always nice, isn't it, during a race or at the end of the race at least, to be able to hear what was going on in the minds and the approach to a race or a pass or a key moment or whatever. So absolutely great addition as the GridLife stream just continues to increase its intensity, and it's just great to see.
Absolutely. So again, the weather's great and everyone's in shorts and t-shirts, and that's great to see. And tonight we've got our first night of our concert, our on stage. We've got headlining acts from Kavinsky and Cascade here this weekend. If you're in the area within a couple hours of South Haven, Michigan, it's not too late to grab a GA ticket at the gate. I wouldn't wait any longer. I'd try to get one as soon as you can. But headlining acts this weekend, we've got all sorts of music. You can see the lineup, gridlifemidwest.com for more information on that. You should be here. It really is a fantastic time. Lots of music and motorsports that we are going to get to engage in here this weekend. I think, Greg, you and I are going to step away. We're going to cut for a little while. Greg, it'll be Jared and Sam joining us here in just a little bit. We're going to step away, but first we'd like to thank one of the partners that makes this all happen. And coverage of GridLife Midwest is brought to you by Hyundai. It's your journey. GRIDLIFE Midwest Festival is where speed meets sound. Back here live from GingerMan Raceway in South Haven, Michigan. Kyle Heyer joined by Greg Creamer for the start of our third group of Time Attack Track Battle here this weekend. We're going to have our Falcon Sunday Cup group out in this group next. And we were talking earlier about the Sunday Cup category and how much fun it is. It doesn't have to be Honda Fits. There's a whole lot of those Honda Fits. You can run Mazda 2s. You can run Ford Fiestas. We've seen Chevy Cobalts running it before. A lot of really fun cars, but about a 20-ish to 1 power to weight ratio. So a lot of fun to watch these guys go out there. They're probably going to find a group and run in a pack together. And it's about as close to wheel-to-wheel racing as you're going to get in track battle. They have the most fun at anybody here. There's a good look at Pete Lindbergh getting prepped in his Fields Auto Works number 969.
And these cars, for people that have been watching maybe World Challenge or SCCA or what over the years as well, would be B-Spec, essentially, but in a different approach, obviously, with the track battle, where it's all about time, fastest lap, and you just want to keep improving on your fast lap as the weekend unfolds. And if you set a scorcher early and you can't get to it, that's oftentimes a good sign, because it means nobody else will be able to either. And this track is going to keep changing, isn't it? Which is going to be interesting, because with the drift cars, obviously with their sideways approach to stuff, they deposit lots of rubber and stuff on the track. So every time these guys go out, every time the GRIDLIFE Touring Cup cars go out, track conditions are going to be a little bit different, which just adds to the challenge, and that's part of what makes Midwest Festival so special.
100%. And even Adam Jabay and Chris Stewart, the co-founders of GRIDLIFE, they've mentioned that Sunday Cup is sort of a catch net. It's that if you burn yourself out in other series, spending a bunch of money and trying really hard, the best way to kind of reset yourself is to head into one of these Honda Fits in the Sunday Cup category and just kind of relearn what fun is, right? Because you're not spending a lot of money, you are having a high degree of competition, and it's just more fun, and everyone just has a really good time. And to have that catch net for when you burn yourself out in GLTC or unlimited time attack, you pour tens of thousands of dollars into your ride. This is a great place to come back, buy a $7,000 Honda Fit and with 250,000 miles and run it into the dirt. It's the most fun thing ever. And
spend the entire time with a huge grin on your face. And that's the cool thing is, you said it earlier, bang for your buck. There's really nothing better than this category. They're fun, they're cheap to operate, and you tend to run, as you said, really, really closely. All of these cars just sort of naturally fit into what otherwise you'd have to have almost for a spec series, because the performance window is so similar, and that makes it fun. And you're out there dicing it up, trying to figure out how can I find and trim, an eighth of a second, off of this to get to that guy and better that time. So
there's a couple of those fits getting together. There's the Hard Times Racing Honda Fit. Now, Hard Times Racing, partially owned by Charlie Enslin, who's put in a ton of work. He's our operations lead here at GRIDLIFE, and Charlie has not slept at all in probably the last 3 weeks. He's been just charging through it. He's a big part of why the festival site looks the way it does. Never stops working, puts in so much effort. He's got that Honda Fit here with a couple of his teammates that jump in and drive every once in a while. Charlie is busy running festival, so he won't be in a car here this weekend, but the team and Hard Times Racing is, and they'll be on track having some fun. So a couple more other fits out there we'll take note of when we get the graphics up, but lap times here are going to be in the mid-150 range. Then the track temperature is going to continue to climb throughout the day as the sun kind of beats down on it. But again, these cars are going to be on the Falcon RT 660 tire. This is, again, a Falcon Sunday Cup class, so everyone's going to be on that spec tire, which kind of evens out the competition quite a bit.
Well, I mean, tire budgets can, if you're looking for an inexpensive program, tire budgets can wreck that in a hurry. And we talked about it already, how Falcon has come up with a tire that, the amount you spend versus the amount of performance you get is exceptionally reasonable, and that's what makes it fun. Sort of a target time. Matt Williams yesterday in the last practice session or run session in Sunday Cup put up a 1 minute 52.877 second lap, a 152.8. And the next closest guy was Jake Abbott in the number 826 at a 154 flat. So a little bit of a gap there, but that just gives you an idea. Low 152s or mid 152s, you're going to be doing really well in these conditions compared to yesterday.
Look at a couple of other competitors on track. There's the number 47, which which again, when we have the timing and scoring up, we'll walk you through our runs. Again, waiting for some times to get up on the board. But this is a fun category in general because, you know, Group C, generally there's kind of a mix here between the fastest of our classes with lower power and lower weight, and some of the other competitors that would are in, you know, street and club TR, and towards the bottom of the group that are kind of making it work with what they've got. And it's fun to see people. These are homebrew cars, right? Some of the super fast unlimited time attack builds. Some of them are built in the garage. Some of them have shops that put in tens of thousands of dollars. But these are the garage builds down here, and that is the purity of grassroots motorsport at its best.
It is, and I mean, you know, it's these guys that you know, you see bringing the car in on an open trailer, maybe with a tarp or a small closed trailer, and they do it out of absolute sheer passion. And they just, you know, they get home from their regular job and they wrench on the car and get it ready to go, and they come out and go racing. And that's what makes grassroots racing so special, is it's all driven by a pure love for the sport and the camaraderie that you find. I mean, you know, in this series, Grid Life in general, and in all of the divisions that run Grid Life, you know, you will often see somebody have a problem and a competitor will help you fix or give you a part, well knowing that if you get that car back together, you've generally been a little quicker at this track than they have, and might, you know, steal that fast time away or take points away. And they do it with a smile because they want you out there running with them.
Sure thing, and Dan Malloy was in that green Mazda 2, and that's one of those great examples of one of the more unique cars that you can find in the Sunday Cup class. So Dan's out there hauling in for Heretics Time Attack 2011 Mazda 2. Garrett Gltc in the 238 is at the top of the board right now. Garrett running for GROM Electronics out of Ann Arbor, Michigan. Here's a look at the 130 car, and that is one of our Smiths, of which there are several. James Smith.
Yep.
For Smith-Oline Racing, Mishawaka, Indiana, 2013 Honda Fit and Sunday Cup. Pete Lindbergh's out there. Becky Burton is out there. She's having a great time running with the Robertson Racing crew here this weekend. James Morgan, I love James Morgan. There's almost nobody in the paddock that makes me smile as much as when I talk to James Morgan. He'll give you a big bear hug every time you chat with him. There's a lot of people like that in the Grid Life paddock, but again, James Smith hauling right now through turn 8 and 9, real low set. One of those second-gen Honda Fits. One of my favorite generations. I think that was the look for me. When you lower them, they just look just right.
They look sharp. Yeah. Jake Abbott right now, fastest in the that class at this point. Or did that just change? Nope, it's still Jake at a 154.2. But you know, talking about see that big lurid slide there.
Yeah, was that? I think that was the Mazda 2.
I think it was
of Malloy. Got a big sideways moment out of turn 6. There's the 238. That's Garrett Gltc. That's that Mazda RX-8. He's in the Falcon Club TR category. You see the gray on the timing and scoring screen for Club TR. And asked him what he was driving. He goes, Doritos. Got the rotary under the hood. So
there you go. Nice.
Another very unique engine type. You don't see a ton of anymore.
You don't.
But they're great track cars, I think. I mean, they, you know, apex seals and all that, but maintenance.
Just you're going to do track maintenance anyway.
If you're going to commit to a rotary, you got to be a rotary bro, and rotary bros are not afraid of apex seals. And he's going quick, a 146.431. Darian Taggart in Club TRs in a Honda S2000 for ASM this weekend. So there's a couple track battle cars that are running in the ASM camp, not in Grid Life Touring Cup. The other is the ASM Super K. That is typically Alex Moss. Alex couldn't make it here this weekend, so O'Gorman and Andy Smedegard will be trading off that car.
Okay.
But that is that bright green street modified S2000 with the BMW Trans in it.
All right.
So we'll see.
Rotary bro, huh?
Rotary. I mean, that's what I just made. I made that term up. I'm going to get flamed for that later, probably. They have probably their own internal term they like to use.
Yeah, but I think the T-shirt should say Rotary bro.
Yeah,
for sure. That's good. I like that.
Here comes Gltc. Now we'll see if he can improve on a 46.431. Cross the line this time. Does not look like it's an improvement. Looks like Taggart jumps up.
Yeah, he was on a cool down lap. Taggart up to second.
Sampa, the 519, jumps up to 4th on the board. Chong Lor in 5th. And looking down the rest of the order, Taylor Stack in the 440. That's a street class car, 8th overall in this session, a 151.48. Look at this RX-8. This is, again, you talk about FR platforms of the last decade or so. And this is the same kind of car that you put in the category of Mazda MX-5, FRS BRZ. This is kind of a car you cross-shop with those things. And the big advantage of this car, it's relatively low weight. It makes about 230 horsepower. And the horsepower per liter, it's a 1.3 liter, something ridiculously tiny like that. But it makes all the power way up top, which makes it so fun to rev out on a racetrack. And right up to the edge of the track at turn 7.
And look how, and there, you see how far he stayed out? So he turns in, and he didn't even have to dip the brake. That thing just stuck beautifully through there. So that was a good run. By the way, in the Sunday Cup class, James Smith has gone to the top at a 53.696. Oh!
Car off the course. That's the 197, I believe. Now, is that the driver that I think it is? On timing and scoring, I don't. Looking down the list, did they even make it around?
I think that is an outlap.
I think that might be Kendall Samuel behind that wheel. I didn't get a great look. Yes, it is Kendall Samuel in the Mechanical Advantage Racing car at Hendersonville, North Carolina. 2000 Subaru Impreza. Hood is up on that car, and smoke and a fire extinguisher in hand. By the way, competitors on track having a fire extinguisher is always a great idea. Saves you the effort of having to run to a corner station and grabbing one. But black flag on this session, so it looks like we're going to bring everybody in. And yeah, a little smoky on Friday. That's unfortunate to see, Greg.
Yeah, and as we said, there's so much more that we have yet to do here this weekend. So to have this happen early is really frustrating. You can see some of it's pouring out of the right wheel well.
Yeah, you're looking intently under the hood to see what's going on.
Yeah.
But everyone's going to return to pit lane here, Greg. So I think what was...
I wonder if that's steam as opposed to
it
smoke, possibly.
On an outlap, though?
I know.
Maybe.
You know, unless yeah, I mean, maybe they had it warming up, and then he got out, and so it was already pretty hot. I don't know, but...
GingerMan Raceway safety team is there, taking a look at it. Their car is going to have to get towed off track. This will likely be the end of our Group C session here in GridLife Track Battle Time Attack. Let's remind you what's coming up next. It's going to be GridLife Drift. We'll have Jared Anda, Sam Nalvin, and Greg Bucell bringing you the action here in just a little while. Right after that, it's going to be GridLife Touring Cup qualifying just after the top of the hour, just after 2 p.m. Eastern time. And then we'll qualify 57 GLTC cars. After that, we're going to head back into track battle before we take a quick break with our backpack men. We've got a Twitch streaming backpack that we're going to try to check out, see if that works. We're going to have Greg Bucell kind of roam around the campus here and see what's going on in all the different areas. And we'll be back with you for GridLife Touring Cup Race 1 at around 4:45 later today. So that's what's coming up. It's going to be Drift, then GLTC qualifying, back to track battle, backpack man, then GLTC. And then we'll have another drift session, track battle, GLTC, and backpack man to end today. So a little bit of back and forth here at GridLife Midwest, Greg, and I guess we'll check back in for qualifying here in a little bit.
Yeah, we will. And I just want to go back to one thing you said, walking around the paddock and getting lots of hugs, and so many people have that sort of mentality here in the GridLife paddock. You know what? That's what happens when you embrace inclusion.
Absolutely. We'll be back with GridLife Drift here in just a couple minutes.
The more power you have, the more grip you have, the more you push the limits, the more stopping power you need. Get race-proven technology. Hawk Performance.
Still on this weekend for a little.
You know it. I'm in desperate need of some.
What about you, Jim?
No, my sister's getting. Yeah, dun, da, da, da,
wedding. She's getting married, so.
When adventure calls, make sure you're ready to answer. Stable 360 ethanol treatment is specifically formulated for year-round use, so your engines will be ready when you are. Ready, willing, stable.
We've been powering the American road since before it was paved. Our first breakthrough in motor oil was introducing it. And we've been reinventing it ever since. From the world's first high-mileage oil to the world's first synthetic blend. There are those who change with the times, and those who drive them. Valvoline, the original motor oil.
All right, man, GRIDLIFE Drift. Look at us out here at this beautiful day, GRIDLIFE GingerMan Raceway. What do you need here? What do you need here? What do you need here? GRIDLIFE Drift. I got cars coming down the hill. Nick Swan's out there up on grid getting ready to send these cars. I saw some good-looking cars. Forrest Wang's back out of retirement. I saw Dirk Stratton out there in the Corvette. Justin Pollock, all the Team Falcon. Matt Fields, second in points. Dylan Hughes just came out of a win, Formula Drift Orlando. Everybody's here. Everybody's here. All the way down. Ultimaniac. You guys see this Ultimaniac behind us? That car's wild. Wild. It makes a 1 trillion horsepower, 4-seater, rear-wheel drive Nissan Altima. I don't know the facts behind it, but I think we're going to get a ride-along in it later. Definitely. That car's great. Honda Fit on track. I think we're getting ready to send cars. Yeah? So we're going to be coming back through here, peeking over this railing throughout the time. They're going to enter straight through here. I think this is turn 1. In my mind, it's turn 1. And then they kick it through a turn 2 all the way into this wide sweeper. We're going to focus in on initiation on this first section. Me and you, Will, the man with the camera right there, we're going to focus in on this. I want to see some wild initiations. I want to see backies. I want to see manjis. I want to see feints. I want to see long handbrake drags. The longer the better. Flat spot the tire, bring it on through. All right, car's gonna go off in there. We're gonna see some bumpers lost. Whatever bumpers are lost, probably gonna go collect for myself. Anticipation, it's reckless. I don't know when this done. I'm supposed to. I don't know.
It's like we need to get you a earpiece or something, you know?
Yeah. I'm hot, but like how long? And what am I talking about?
They've been saying it on the walkie. All right, here goes some drifting motion.
Oh, this excitement is reckless. That's a hot boy car right there. Oh, look at Force Wang on the tandem. First trip from GRIDLIFE. Did you see that? It's absolute car overload. What am I seeing? Jeff Stoneback in the JZX 100. This car is too hot to be on there. Too hot. He's about to. Who's the bumpers back here? I think that's TJ Hunt. I've seen him on YouTube before. Is that Adam LZ? I think that's Adam LZ. Was that Adam LZ?
Grant.
Chris Forsberg, everybody. Chris Forsberg. Chris, what are you doing today?
Well, you know, we're driving the car. It's going great. Ultima's doing good.
Ultimaniacs?
Ultimaniac, yeah.
Good to know. Good to know. Chris Forsberg, everybody else. I can't wait to see you later. Fantastic. Fantastic car. Looked like just,
Man, Sam, I'm seeing Chips watching our boy Greg Bussell. Look at this. That is Whaley, Mr. Whaley. That is an LS-powered Ford Mustang. Thanks for joining us here. We are live. I'm Jared Dienda, Sam Nalvin, Greg Bussell. He's down there getting the hot pits in the hot pits.
I just want to say that Greg looks trim. His physique is on point. I'm not sure. Yeah, look at him. Man, he is looking sharp. Thank you, Jared, for introducing me. I just want to start off out of the gate saying I shouldn't even be here right now.
No.
I'm supposed to be an umbrella boy for Odie Bakchis. I got kicked off grid for wearing too much latex.
Yep.
Is that? I didn't even know that was a rule.
Yeah, there's stipulations, but regardless of the stipulations, let's talk about what's going down at the track.
What is going down?
Because what is going down is that we are live at GingerMan Raceway, and the drifting is going down. Is that Simba? I think that's GG Simba. No, that's not. That is not.
What are we watching here, though?
So right now we're looking at drifting. What is going down is there's a variety of drivers. Some we know, some we don't know. But it's an open expression session. We're dropping bumpers, clutch kicking, taking names.
Is it a competition? Do they get points for losing bumpers, Jared?
Absolutely not. We are looking at a piñata, a festival. Candy will be spread, but no candy, nothing sweet other than the absolute pure joy of the revs, of the tire debris, of the, oh my gosh, just the exuberance.
Camaraderie.
The camaraderie, great word.
Friendship.
Oh my gosh.
High fives.
Yep.
So I heard the drivers' meeting this morning from our wonderful gentleman,
Nick Swan.
Nick Swan did give us a drivers' meeting.
Oh, we got a Falcon. Look at this. Sorry, real quick.
Get us going.
So
Get us going.
we got Odie Bakchis, we got JTP, we got Matt Field, and Dylan Hughes is joining them. The most recent winner of the Formula Drift Championship, piloting his Royal Purple vehicle. Right now he's ripping that Permatex E36. This is a demo car for him.
Yeah.
But the teal and blue is so signature now.
We're going to start out with a gentle Ford.
Yo! Woo! Odie and his signature orange wing. Justin Paulin with a gangster. Look at that flick.
Yeah.
So watch how I think he's going to apply the pressure today and through this weekend.
And Dylan taking up the rear of the E36. That's his street car. Was his street car.
Yeah, it was his street car.
Just like
That's
every
right.
good drift car story, it started out as a street car that you then went a little bit too far on. And he started wrong by doing an HGK wide body, carbon Kevlar, and at the gas pump he had to take off the rear quarter each time he wanted to fill her up. And he loved doing that so much, he said, you know what, I'm going to turn this into a drift car, a full actual drift car.
Look at the progression of Dylan Hughes. Again, the dozer. Look at, and Falcon right now just applying the pressure to, don't know who that is, but is that Dirk Stratton in tow, by the way? Oh, here we go. We got Alex Jager, and this is Chris the Force Forsberg driving the Ultimaniac. Hopefully we're gonna get Cascade in that vehicle later on.
Both of them are four-seaters, so you got people
You got
in there.
8 smiles.
Well, one person was crying because they thought that they were actually going to EDC, but that was last weekend. And now they, you know, this is really cool.
This is beyond EDC.
Yeah.
This is the most intimate car / automotive
You can't get
/
intimate with
music
cars
festival.
at EDC unless you did too many drugs and you end up in the parking lot.
I mean, a Buick Regal. You look at the lines of a Buick Regal.
You can't call it that if it's not. It's Regal.
Thank you.
Thank
Is
you.
that Nick Swan?
Yeah, that's Nick
Oh,
Swan right there.
sorry.
Swan gave the drivers the lowdown before we got out of here, and he said some key points. He said, I want you to try hard. I want you to do all hits above the belt.
When you cry hard.
He said, don't do tricks. I'm not sure what he meant by that.
Yeah.
And then he did say, finally, most importantly, if you do dirt drop, and that's when you drop your rear tires into the dirt or go off track, you don't want to clutch in. You're going to want to floor out of it. You're going to want to put that throttle down, get back into drift while in the dirt still, get back on track.
Can we talk about the gold diggers?
Yes.
So Scott out there is ripping around with the gold diggers. That looks like Vaughn getting Jr.
Yep.
Greg getting a Greg with a hard breaking news.
Testing the mic fidelity by putting it right up there. So we got Vaughn, Chelsea, and
Adam LZ.
Lazarus.
Yeah. Adam LZ.
Team RTR.
Dude.
Ripping. Oh, the 3 Mustangs go by, and then here comes Falcon, headed by JTP, Justin Tyler Perry Pollock. Is that?
Yeah, I think it was in Home Improvement, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. There he is. There's Vaughn, 2-time Formula Drift champion. In tow will be Chelsea Denofa in the Pennzoil vehicle, but here's Vaughn. I think they're going to shape of the course right now.
Yeah. You got to heat up the tires first, or just go all in immediately. There's 2 different strategies here. Both of them pay off in dividends. This is our first drift session.
Yep.
So these cars probably, well, I shouldn't say probably, they literally haven't been drifted on the track yet until this run right now. So some people like to get right into it. Some people like to see the temps.
What do you think of this course, and how does it lend itself to drifting overall?
I think the course.
What are the major turns to focus on as we are focusing on Team Falcon? Oh, ripping around.
We didn't have names for these corners previously, and I'm looking at a map in front of us right now, and apparently one of these corners is called Deep Demon, and that is what is kind of highlighting it for me. I'm down with this sickness, Jared.
Look, I just want to introduce Sam Nalvin as a big fan, particularly of. I think that you are the president of the fan club of the Trapped.
Yeah.
Right?
Well, yeah, I'm headstrong.
Yeah, but more than that, you're not only headstrong. You're
I also would like to make the announcement that I will take on anyone because of that headstrong behavior.
Yeah.
And if not, then this is not where you belong, Jared.
Nope. That's, you know what? Just making that statement real quick.
I appreciate that. But in terms of the track, I think that this is a magical track that was not intended or built for drift cars.
Nate Hamilton.
It's so very cool to see them. One, when you see that big straight and that initiation, right now we're looking at what we call Friday initiations. They're kind of testing the waters. Maybe one flick before you go in. By the end of Saturday, we see the full straight Manji, which we highly, highly encourage. That's extra points. And again, there is no winner. There are some losers.
Everybody wins.
Everyone loses, too, when you think about it.
Wow. That's a real glass half empty kind of attitude, Sam.
I got to be the counter to you. If
Yeah,
you're excited, you know, I got to be here.
Well, you're wrong.
No, everyone wins. Everyone does win, especially you guys getting to see this. We got Dylan following Odie, and then there's the Gold Diggers.
Team Gold Diggers. The E46
and
Jammers.
They're GRIDLIFE vets. They've been out here for, I think, all of them. And they're always
multiple years
excited
now
to watch. And like we've seen already, you've got people that run pro. You've got people that are running pro spec. People that run just GRIDLIFE. We have a full spread of all talented drivers down here. Untalented con men. This guy in the pit tried to sell me an NFT. So I guess
Is it a JPEG?
It was a JPEG, but it was like a physical printout of a sticker. It was a finger giving a high five or something. I'm not sure.
Want to thank our sponsors who make this event possible, which are Momo, Hyundai, FCP Euro, and eBay Motors. Momo, made in Italy, as well as Hyundai. It's your journey. FCP Euro, every part you buy is a guarantee for quality.
Vaughn,
eBay Motors, let's ride.
Vaughn dirt dropped and he kept on it, just like I said he should. Nick is going to love that. That's exactly what Swan wants to see. And also, don't forget to follow GridLife Official and GridLife Fest on IG and other social platforms. Or else. They told me to say or else. I'm not sure
what's the threat? I feel like that's an empty threat. Oh, my gosh.
So it looks like we've got
Nick Swan going off course. He's also leading the track, but is that a Subaru, by the way?
I'm not sure what he's doing out there.
I think it's a Subaru.
But I'm proud of him, nonetheless.
Yo, tonight, who are you most excited to see? As
Tonight,
Vaughn, by the way.
Yes.
Shredding
I'm going to
bumpers.
see Vaughn tonight. I'm pretty excited about that.
Oh,
I'm seeing him right now as well. Wave Dash. I'm pretty pumped up to see. I saw him previously. Those kids go hard.
Okay.
Hard with a W in there. Hard.
Hard.
Cascade, of course.
Yep. Cascade's going down.
Amazing. They were one of the first electronic dance musicians I listened to as a young warthog.
Yeah.
And now we're here.
Yo, Nate Hamilton there, coming in hard. So, again, Scott from Grip Royal, he was talking about some movie where a kid breaks his arm and throws a ball really fast. Hard Ice?
Field of Dreams. Angels in the Outfield.
I think no.
Mac and Me?
I think it was Mac and Me.
Must have been
I think it was Mac and Me, yeah. Go ahead and roll the tape.
Wait, which one of those is Nate? Because I just see a hentai.
No, that's not. None of those are Nate.
Okay, I thought you said that was Nasty Nate.
No, Nate's got a white fade.
Look at that car. It's laughing at me with its hood.
Yeah.
There's always got to have one anime car. All right, there's that Boss S14 followed by a Gold Digger with a Tribal. Tribal's back, right? I can get Tribal tats again?
Yeah, I think it's fair. I think it's absolutely.
Do you want to get inked this weekend? Tribal?
Do you want to get iced?
Iced and inked.
Iced and inked. I'm down.
I'll
do it at the same time.
Oh!
Whoa! Chelsea Danofa overcooks it. But Adam LZ keeps it clean.
Yeah.
Look at that. Well done, Adam.
But
that's I was talking to
Chelsea's
a driver.
Test the limits before he.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. You're talking to a driver.
And we were talking about, in particular, what are the turns that are going to give you the most, trouble.
Yeah.
And I would say where it begins and where it ends. So it would be turn 11.
Yep.
And turn 1.
Yeah, turn 1 is the one where everyone does the huge initiations, but
Yep.
you're going from full maximum speed to one of the sharpest corners of the track, which is what makes it spectacular, but also what you when you see a lot of dirt drops,
There's a drifter out there right now.
Yes.
His name is Peter.
You got it. You can say it.
Go ahead.
Chrysicopolis.
I like it.
Yep. Okay,
Chrysicopolis.
Yep.
Dan Sumner's out there. Danger Dan is ripping out there.
Yep.
As well as, like we said, Forsberg. Adam Kanapic. I haven't seen Kanapic out there just yet. Is that Rose? Da, 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 da. Dylan Hughes.
Yep.
Stoneback.
Forrest Wang. I haven't seen Forrest running yet, but I'm very excited to see Forrest Wang out here.
Yep, Zendara is out there. Z drives. If you have not seen her,
There's
she is
the
out
Montes.
there.
That's what I like to see. If drift cars
Oh,
are going
George
straight,
K.
they're not doing it right. Good job, George K.
Yeah.
Good munch. I like to see the FPV action cam following us. Last time we were really doing some stunts in the tree as well with the FPV cam. I think everyone's pretty tired of FPV cams now. I saw a guy with a bow and arrow in the field.
What?
Shooting, yeah, they're like plunger. I think there's plunger tipped bows. I didn't even know that was a thing. I thought that was just Home Alone, but I guess not. Like, I'm a McCulkey fan as well. I just want you to be aware.
Big Culkin fan. There's George K in the 219.
Jared,
George Kirkopoulos.
This is your 55th Grid Life, right?
I've been here since the dawn of time, when the sun was rising and the sun was set.
First
I've
Grid
been
Life,
here.
we didn't even have a grid. And now look,
It's just called life.
It was just called life. And we were living it for a long time. But now we've brought the grid. And it changed everything. It is a spectacle. Greg also said, you saw Greg at the head of the hour.
Yep.
He's going to be collecting the Boneyard. That's going to be Greg's bumper pile. He's going to.
That's his nickname in college, too, the Boneyard.
The Boneyard, yeah, the Bone Zone. Come to Greg's Bone Zone. I don't know what that means, but he's going to be collecting these bumpers and selling them to pretty much whoever has stuff for him. He didn't even mention prices, but that's part of the deal. You lose a bumper on this track, it's Greg's now. you want it back, you're gonna have to give him something.
Yeah, he's basic.
He's kind of a monster. I mean, I don't know if it's something we want to endorse.
Every time I see him, he just keeps slapping me.
LZ figuring out that corner and going in a little bit deeper each time. Can I say it? No.
Yeah.
I resend that statement. Roll back the tape, boys.
No, I think you're allowed.
Okay.
I think it's fair. Talking about all the festivities that are going down here. GLTC going down later. Baby Kyle, he's wrapping out and talking about what's going down. But
you're going to be cruising the pits, aren't you?
I'm going to be cruising the...
And in the streets.
Yeah.
Getting all the hard-hitting facts out.
Oh, who do we got? Oh, that's what we're talking about. Zendara.
Yes.
So she is from Canada, and that's right,
yeah.
she is out here tearing it up, and a talented stunt driver. She does stunt driving in films and TV shows, so it's exciting to see her out here.
What is the process to only have one name?
Just own it.
What would yours be if you could?
I got nothing. What? I'm going to ask you. Like, what would mine be?
Death Striker.
That was that's what I was going to go for, and it's crazy. Like, get out of my head, Sam. Because you absolutely...
Did you hear that nice little giggle you made me do?
What?
I said nice little giggle for you. You didn't even recognize
I heard it.
Here's Michael Essa, FD champion out here.
Wait, Essa's out there?
Yeah, that's Essa.
Yo, the FCP Euro. BMW.
I am so happy to see the BMW representation out here now as a Beamer boy.
That's right. You are a Beamer boy.
But I'm also an S-chassis boy. I live all the worlds, Jared. But it's cool to see a lot of these.
You're not an S-chassis guy anymore.
Not really.
No.
She exists in my heart.
But she doesn't exist in your driveway.
No.
Not at all.
I live in LA. I don't have a driveway.
Yeah. Good point.
I'm like Mr. Riverside with big houses. How many cars could you fit there? Every single car. You could. Your whole driveway could fit cars.
All of them. I am just looking over my shoulder and seeing the Ultimaniac pulling out. Look at that. There it is. So we are shortly, like, right where that car's initially.
Yes, going right.
What? Yo, that was NBD.
So that's Forsberg behind the wheel of that thing. I got
2,000 horsepower?
I got a ride in it last year. It was insane. Because before, he's made these party cars before, and or is this Jaeger?
No.
That's Forsberg.
Jaeger's in the
La Flamme.
Yeah, La Flamme.
But yeah, this is
not Blanca.
This is perfect, purpose built for such things, and this car is absolutely insane and so low to the ground. Like you can see it slammed here, but when you see it in person and its actual like roof line height, it is such a crazy drift machine with passengers. Highly, highly, highly recommend if you can ever. First of all, get to GRIDLIFE. You're not going to be able to get to the car if you're not
There's
there.
multiple cars that have broken the internet over the years.
Yes.
This is one that we're looking at right
Oscar
now. This is the Ultimaniac, 2,000 horsepower, VR-powered Ultima. There are multiple cars, like I said, that are here. Rob Dahm, we got a 4-rotor.
Yep.
FDRX7.
I heard all 4 of them earlier.
Formula Supra.
Yep.
We got Ryan Turk's car out here with that V10 Judd engine, all new Supra. Is that Stoneback?
That's Nick Swanigan.
Oh, Swanigan. Just Swanigan?
Yep. Is Stoneback in an S15? I feel like he's usually in an S15.
I don't know what. I think Stoneback. I don't know what exactly Stoneback is driving, but I want to say that was him.
Stay on the throttle.
No, yeah, he is. He is in his S15.
On throttle.
Oh boy, slow
that
down.
Intercooler
Slow down.
Looks a little
massive and tweaked.
Yeah. Is that what the kids do? Is that the new style?
It's little 12-carat front.
It's kind of like
Shout
an
out Post
evolution
Malone.
of Bosuzoku style. You kind of tweak your intercooler. What you
Yep.
want to do is run it right into a dirt berm.
Yeah.
And then it'll tweak just the right way.
Gives you street cred, right? Is that what? That's what he said. That's what kids do.
You're really excited about Post Malone today.
Super pumped. Brand new album dropping, baby.
Major sponsor of GRIDLIFE, Post Malone.
It's gonna happen.
It's sponsor of you and your hype.
It will happen.
Is the album a little bit like emo, and that's why like you don't have are Posty's hard lines getting to your heart right now?
Yeah. I think that he's breaking hearts and breaking clutches because he goes hard. taking a look at the schedule here, we are going down till just a little bit further. I think we're running a little bit long here, but it should be a good time.
Should be a good time, or it already is?
It's 100% a good time.
Like, if you're not having a good time, you can tell me, and I will do whatever it takes.
just
tranquilo.
Because we're going to GLTC here in just a moment.
Okay.
Just want to make sure. Oh man, there's Jake.
Do we have to though? Can we stay doing this?
We could do this forever. Go back and forth. Definitely want to thank all our sponsors who make this event possible. As we are live here at GridLife, and that was just, it's all about expression session. That's really what it's all about. So want to thank, again, all of you for joining us online or in the building. There's Alex Jager, and there is Chris Ford. Look at that thing dragging side skirt. How exciting is that? But want to thank FCP Euro. Every part you buy is guaranteed for life. FCP Euro. If you haven't gone, check out all the FCP Euro goods, from OE to OEM to aftermarket goods. FCP Euro. Every part you buy is guaranteed for life.
For life? What if I live a really long time, Jared?
Falcon Tire. Falcon Tire. The Falcon Azenis RT660 is the official tire of Club TR.
You said tire wrong. Tire?
Tire.
Oh, okay.
Tire.
Tire. You say that word like I say pillow.
Yeah, dude. Thank you so much for joining us out here at our Drift Expression session. We'll go to GLTC in a little bit. But speaking of G, let's throw it down to 3G. Greg Bussell. Greg.
Greg Life, let's go.
Jay-Z's, pros, non-pros, old pros, everybody out on track having a great time. What is GridLife Drift to me? It's like, I don't know. It's kind of where everybody gets to come and play together. It's like all of you and your homies on one playground, just kind of thrashing around. You may have a $200,000 Altamaniac, which is I think that's how much that costs. I'd say $200 to $250. Or you can have a primer down S13, which is what I own, probably about $2,500 bucks. But that's GridLife Drift, man. That's GridLife Drift. I want to see some smoke next round. Show me some smoke, more angle, more clutch kicks. Throw it down, boys. Good to see you, Bubba. Good to see you. Drifting at GridLife. What else can I say? Look at these guys. Look at these. Okay, so I should probably see what we do.
Matt, let us know when you're off of first game. I can walk around and get ready to go.
Green flag flies, and we're racing. The Hightower pushes Jensen along the exit of turn number 4. This win, it's big fly! It's time to go racing at GridLife Midwest. Hill side by side. O'Gorman around the outside, now for the top side. Tom O'Gorman goes to lead. 3 wide the lead.
This is great racing, folks. This is what this series is all about.
GridLife Midwest here at GingerMan Raceway in South Haven, Michigan, getting prepped for GridLife Touring Cup qualifying. This 2.21-mile racetrack just east of the lakeshore of Michigan is home to an annual outing for over 8,000 people at our GridLife Midwest Festival. 250 drivers across all of our categories here this weekend: Drift, Track Battle, Touring Cup, and HPDE. Lots to talk about, lots to discuss, but next up is our 57-car GridLife Touring Cup field, getting prepped to go for about 40 minutes or so here, Greg. We have a long session to hopefully get everybody in and out enough times that they get a clean and clear qualifying lap. That's going to be a pretty tricky challenge with so many cars and a racetrack that's only about 2 miles long.
Well, and that's the key, isn't it, is to be able to get that clean-ish lap. I don't know that you're going to get a clean lap necessarily, and that's why they extended the session. And the organizers and officials here at GridLife said, we're going to have a lot of staff in pit lane, so you can come in. We'll find you a gap, so don't worry about it. Turn your 2-3 laps, come in, let the tires cool. Don't be cooling them down on the track and blocking somebody else. And that's why they extended this session out. So I think it's going to be really interesting to see just how this all plays out. And when you take a look at the times that we've seen in practice, we had a 1:38.8 from Tom O'Gorman in the first practice yesterday, which was actually the quicker of them. And in the practice this afternoon, those were both yesterday. The practice this afternoon, they were off it by a little bit. And one of the reasons is I think this track is just slowed down a little bit because of the heat and the sun. And that's going to have its effect. It's a tricky track anyway. It's got lots of nuance to it. And the word I was searching for earlier when I asked Tom O'Gorman, the elevation change here is very subtle. He said it's more like it's got texture, but you have to understand every bit of that little bit of texture to get a really good lap here. And obviously coming out of that turn 10, that's your best opportunity into 11 for a pass. But in terms of qualifying, you will drive it differently in qualifying because you're not worried about being overtaken. You're not doing door to door, so you'll open your entry up a little bit. You may not shallow in like you're trying to keep somebody from making a pass. You'll really open everything up. You want to be really patient in certain parts of the track, and then get it squared up, get that power down, and make sure you don't overshoot any of these blind turn-ins.
So as this is the first on-track session on the broadcast this weekend for GRIDLIFE Touring Cup, let's catch you up on how the season has gone so far. This is our fourth competition round of 2022. Your points leaders coming into the weekend, the ASM crew, Tom O'Gorman and Andy Smedegard. They have traded wins back and forth all season long back at AMP and at NCM Motorsports Park a couple of weeks ago. At COTA, they had kind of a tough round there. That's where the G-Speed cars, Jeremy Swenson, Paul Curley, and others had a really good round. Another car to keep an eye on this weekend is James Houghton in that 41. This is his first time here at this racetrack with that car, that Acura TSX that's kind of bullet-shaped. The red and white livery, it's going to be fast here this weekend, but ASM, they have more than just O'Gorman and Smedegard. They've got Matt Waldbaum, they've got Zach Lavoie, they've got Fiona Liu is a new join to that team in the number 88 car. So really excited to have Fiona join that team. She's just K-swapped her S2000 after having an issue with it back at COTA. So they have a team 5 or 6 cars strong and are certainly a threat, especially given that O'Gorman won 3 of the 4 races here last spring.
Yeah, he just tore it up, didn't he? And you talked about Swenson, obviously, in that first round at COTA. He had 2 wins and was never off the podium. I mean, he just absolutely dominated there and had 3 podiums out of the 4 races at NCM as well. So he's been really strong. But this track, and you know, a guy to maybe watch here. He's coming off of, they got a brand new build and development on the BMW with a Honda engine in it is Ryan Upton, who got his first ever win here a couple of years ago. Has always gone well here. He said, we're still really learning this car, and he said, we're doing, you know, he's happy with the progress, but he said, obviously, we'd like to be a little bit farther up near the front. Another guy I wouldn't count out here is a guy named Mike Cotter.
Yeah, certainly can't count out Brian Highcotter for Chris Forsberg Racing. New livery on that car as well, the number 05. Highcotter out of Fresno, California, in a 2010 Nissan 370Z. Wasn't without their issues on the way to the racetrack. They were trying to load the race car into the trailer, and the engine wouldn't start. So they had to do an overnight engine swap on that 370Z's VQ to get it ready to go racing here this weekend. So Highcotter is certainly not one to count out. And speaking of World Challenge drivers from years past, let's keep our eye on Andrew Rains in the number 99. Yeah. Andrew has run some World Challenge stuff in the past as in an ex-Pirelli World Challenge race car as well, that being the number 99 that was previously owned by Jeremy Boysen. That is a 2002 Acura RSX, one of those old World Challenge front-wheel drive classics. Great-looking car, an ex-PWC driver and race car this weekend.
Well, and if we're going to be looking in that alley, we have to think about Robert Thorne.
100%.
Obviously, who's running with ASM and Shaggy Dog here in a BMW M3. He's only run at Atlanta Motorsports Park this year, but 2 podiums out of the 4 races, a 5th as well, and then 1 race where he was out of the points. But he certainly, in the practices, has shown that he's got some pace. One of the practices, he was right up near the front. The other guy that I talked to during the pit walk is young Mr. Matan Rosenberg, and he said, I think I can get a top 10 in qualifying here. They've really been working at it, and he said the car's been more reliable than it has in the past, and he said, I'm really excited. I think we can notch a top 10 here. And if you look at what he was doing in practice, I mean, in that first practice, he was in 7th. In the second practice, he was in 8th. So he's in with a shout for sure.
And he does a lot of his own work on that race car. And again, as you mentioned, he's super, super young and has so much potential to reach in this series. His main goal was to make that top 10 shootout, how we qualify race number 3 tomorrow. Our top 10 finishers from race number 2 will get to re-qualify and reset the top 5 rows in that third race tomorrow morning. So that'll be a really fun start to our broadcast tomorrow on Saturday. Again, each driver in the top 10 from race 2 will get 1 lap to prove their stuff, and that will set the top 10 for the grid for race number 3.
Yeah, and that's just such a joy to watch, so make sure you are with us for that. It's going to be fun. Yeah, I was talking about Thorne. He was in that second practice yesterday, early evening. He was right there in the top 5. But I'll tell you, Matt Waldbaum was right there. Kerry James was in it. Kerry said in the first practice that he threw a belt. And so they were pretty much done with that, but they got it fixed, came out, put in a really good lap in that second practice.
Other cars to keep an eye on. We've got, of course, the Hart, Alabama Honda Odyssey, a 2018 minivan that's going to be on track with Carl Hurdle behind the wheel, the number 4, and also the number 51, the Rudd's Racing Chevrolet S10. And yes, you heard that correctly. That is a pickup truck with Days of Thunder livery on it, the number 51. So we'll try to get our cameras on that pickup truck at some point here in this session. He'll probably come out towards the tail of the group here. Wasn't confident in the gearing of that car and doesn't think he's going to make it through the whole weekend. But we certainly want to get a camera on him before. That is such a cool build. So everybody queuing up. They talked about this in the drivers meeting. They don't want people slamming on the brakes to get a gap before turn 11. If you want a gap, come to pit lane, get it. Only spend 2 or 3 laps at a time. Come back in, cool your stuff off, go back out. We have 57 cars trying to run a lap time cleanly. That's an immense challenge for everybody out on track. But looks like ASM and a fleet of S2000s up front. Smedegard, O'Gorman, Waldbaum, Ron Solomon, and Zach Lavoie. All 5 of those drivers line astern into turn 7.
Yeah, and this is what they wanted because they know within that team what each person's performance is. And so they've got clear track in front of them. They know the drivers around them, and that gives you the opportunity to really set sail. And you can see a couple of them just laying back a little bit, trying to build a little bit of a gap. And the guys that are a little bit quicker, and certainly O'Gorman in that group is going to be somebody to really keep an eye on. With this being 2.21 miles long and fairly serpentine, I would think, at the end of this outlap, we can see people putting up pretty quick times in this first lap.
Yeah, the track records, I believe, are in the 37s around here. I'm not sure we're going to quite see that with the temperatures we have here. The best lap times we've seen were back in the fall of last year. It was, I think, O'Gorman has the track record at 37.9, I think. So we'll see if we can get down into the 36s. That's kind of the mythical number around here. But Smedegard now rolling through turn number 11 will be the first driver to take the green flag in GRIDLIFE Touring Cup qualifying. And the competition weekend for GRIDLIFE Touring Cup is green here at GingerMan Raceway. Smedegard in the 212 starts things off. O'Gorman, Waldbaum, Ron Solomon, Zach Lavoie, James Houghton behind in the 41. There's that Rudd's Racing truck pulling out of the pits, the number 51. That is a heck of a truck, a big beast, and he'll be on track here joining the group.
And when I was out taking a couple laps around here this morning, you see the truck, the pit lane out line that you have to follow almost goes all the way to the exit of 2. It goes on forever, and you can be frustrated trying to get some throttle coming out of the pits, but it's there for a reason because it ends where you can safely just blend in again. So wisely designed right there. But there's a look at Andy. He has really been on form this year, hasn't he?
He has been, and this whole ASM team, again, Andy runs a really tight ship over there. They basically take these S2000s, drop a Honda K-Series engine in it, and do a whole lot of other things to make it extremely reliable. And that's really the name of the game here in GLTC, especially with the way the point system is this year, an adjustment that sort of values all your races together as a group, as a weekend. You can't just have a great race and a bad race and a great race and a bad race. You have to put a whole weekend together. Your championship final points to tally is your top 5 weekends plus the championship finale. Now, we're not dropping individual races like we have in the past. You're dropping weekends. So you can't cherry pick your wins and your losses if they happen in the same weekend. Whole weekends get dropped this time around.
Yeah, so it's a tough thing, isn't it, when you're looking at something, but you may end up dropping a weekend where you've got some podiums. But if you've got 2 races where you're way out of it, and it's going to help you in the long run, you just have to be able to do that. And let's take a look, and we'll start to see what we've got for some times coming in here. And you can see everybody, the drivers that aren't quite ready to just let it fly the first lap, giving people room. A 140.2 by Smedegaard on that first go-round, a 140.6 by O'Gorman right behind him.
Yeah, so not bad times to start off. Not quite sub 140, though, and Matt Waldbaum a 41.6, kind of in order that they came across the line. Houghton at a 40.7. Zach Lavoie at a 44.753. Andrew Rains in the 99. Looks like this is actually ordered by their position on the track. We'll get that sorted here shortly. But Smedegaard, I believe, one of the quickest on the track right now at a 40.273. And still a handful of drivers left to come across the line. But it is a busy place on track, I can promise you that. There's O'Gorman for Pride Month, got the rainbows on the car, and riding with Pride Motorsports on the nose of the car as well this weekend. And right now, sitting pretty in second at number 94.
And I know there have been some changes in the regulations this year in terms of tires, qualifying tires versus tires that you start the first race on. Do they have to be the same, or do you can use any tire you want?
You can use whatever tires you want.
Okay.
But
so that stayed the same.
Yes,
right.
but the change this year, and I don't think we've mentioned this yet, this is our first real live stream of 2022. No more slick racing tires. We're on 200 treadwear street tires only. And there's an approved tire list. Some of the popular tires, the Falcon RT660, wildly popular. The Kumo's got a tire that everybody uses. I know Brian Heitcutter's on GT Radial, so you get a lot of choice now. You can only bring 2 different types of tires per car. So a lot of people will bring a tire that they think is prepped better for the dry, and one that's a little bit better for the wet, slightly different compounds and tread patterns and that sort of thing. Here's Tyler Starr, by the way, the number 36. He's run a race weekend with us before, but hasn't finished one out, had some technical issues, but he's back in that number 36. Glad to have him with us here this weekend. And here is the FCP Euro E30. Now this is a 1989 BMW that this started FCP Euro. This was the original OG FCP Euro car, and this kind of sat by the wayside in their shop for a really long time. And Michael Herzen and Ben Morowski kind of brought this back to life for this event. They're going to be sharing the car here this weekend, and now they've got pressure from Smedegaard behind them here. But really cool. This is really the OG FCP Euro machine, and of course FCP Euro big supporters. We love those guys. And if you have a European car, BMW, Porsche, Audi, and you know how good FCP Euro service is. Overnight parts, they do that too. Great service, great people especially. So Ben Morowski and Mike Herzen sharing this car here this weekend.
Yeah, they were, nice job there leaving that door open to let Andy get through, knowing that Andy was a bit quicker. But, you know, one of the things about FCP Euro, when the COVID hit, when everything opened up again in terms of racing, was it in July thereabouts? They didn't come back and race, and they said the reason is we can't afford, we don't want to possibly bring anything back and infect our employees. They are the lifeblood of this company. We're going to look after them. We're going to concentrate on the online business. When it's safe, we'll get back to racing. They just are that kind of people.
Absolutely. 6 minutes into our qualifying session here, there's Kerry James in that 44. This car had some damage from last season that Kerry has rebuilt and kind of reconfigured this car, this AKG Motorsport 44 BMW M3. And Robert Thorne jumps up to third on the timing charts, now gets bumped to fourth. James Houghton goes third quick in the 41. So it's O'Gorman, Smedegaard, Houghton, Thorne, Waldbaum, your top 5. And look at Andrew Rains up in the top 10. Eric Meadows as well up in the mix. Vitas Aronowskis in the 144. Lots of shuffling in the top of the order. Look at Rosenberg up there in 7th.
That's a superb run, no question. He's really been pumped about this weekend. And look how close the margins are up at the front. 8 100s between O'Gorman and Smedegaard. 2 100s between Smedegaard and Houghton. And then, about 4/10 of a second back to Thorne, Waldbaum, and the rest. But really, really close up at the Chardin. And you talked about it. Houghton, that car just looked quick when we watched him in practice earlier. It was like, maybe this is it. Maybe this is his weekend.
I'm a little surprised, actually, that he's as far up as he is, just because everyone theorized that that car would be not great here. It's one of a straight line car. But we got to talk about another straight line car. This car, out of all of them, this is the Hart, Alabama Honda Odyssey. If you're looking at all the cars on the entry list, this car has the most horsepower of any of them, shockingly. It has about 280 horsepower, weighs north of 3,500 pounds, but if you have an excuse that I can't race because I don't have a race car, this is how you get out of that excuse. This is a race car.
Yeah.
And it's great on the brakes. It's great on the throttle. Not so great in the corners, and it's going to suffer for that here this weekend. But Carl's here, and it's his first time at this racetrack, and he's putting in the effort to learn it in this land yacht of a beast out here. But it's really cool to watch.
And one thing that he does have on that car is lots of helpful driver aids in terms of ABS and the like, so he can really attack corners and just use that technology to get that beast, as you said, through the corners so he can get back on that throttle.
And everyone's going to ask, is this engine swapped, K-swapped, what transmission it has? Oh, it's bone stock in terms of drivetrain. It's got the same transmission and the same engine that you'd get in your normal Honda Odyssey. Here's a look at Fiona Liu in the blue S2000. She's recently joined ASM with a K-swap in her number 88. The Pika S2K is what they call that. And she rockets up towards turn 3 with Jackson Jensen in tow, son of Eric Jensen. Eric's got that LS Swap FRS. Jackson joining GLTC back at COTA with that silver C6 Corvette just in the background there, following Fiona Liu.
Yeah, I was talking to Eric a little bit earlier, and all he wanted to do was talk about Jackson. Proud dad right there, having him join up and everything. And he said, you know what? He's not too far off the pace either.
Yeah, there was actually a little friendly rivalry with him back at COTA. I think Jackson actually out-qualified Eric technically. I think Eric had some penalty that dropped him a couple places in grid, and Jackson technically started in front of him. I'm sure that was a proud son moment for Jackson. But I think Jackson's moving to Dallas. They're both from Trophy Club, Texas, but Eric is moving for school, so he's headed to Dallas and working on the C6 Corvette in the spare time. But Fiona heading through turn 7, 8, and 9 now into turn 10. This car was back at COTA, had an engine issue, but glad to see Fiona back in GLTC.
Yeah, absolutely great, yeah, to have her back. The first time Jackson legitimately out-qualifies or out-races Dad, I think he should print that timesheet, have it turned into placemats, and bring him to the table for Thanksgiving.
I like that. I mean, there's examples of family in motorsport that don't go so well. Think Kyle and Kurt Busch back in 2007, 2010.
Yep.
Yeah, there's all that. How about the Robertson Racing 898? Brian DeFries with the new livery on the car this week.
Well, that's sharp too, isn't it?
It is, and he's paired up with Scott Robertson, who's in the 213 Mazda Miata, and Scott's in a red NB Miata, and he'll be in the field as well. But there's a look at Brian. Previously, he drove this car everywhere. Didn't have a transporter or trailer. He drove this across the country. He's from Austin, Texas. So quite the drive.
Yeah, absolutely.
In a race car.
Yeah, for sure.
And this is a pretty similar build in some ways to what DJ Alessandrini drives, the 2006 Civic Si. This is an 08.
All right.
But a Civic Si nonetheless. And this setup has been pretty, I wouldn't say super popular here in the series. This generation Civic, this 8th gen Civic, is a little larger physically than some of the older generations, but they're really easy to make go fast. And I think DJ and Brian have proved that you can take this car and not do a ton to it and make it a pretty reasonable race car. And that's what Brian has done with this bright blue and yellow Robertson Racing 898.
Well, it's been in a lot of that car, not this specific car, but that make and model. There's a reason it's raced a lot.
Right.
Because it does really, really well. The other car that I hope we get a glimmer of in this session is Colton Wade's car. One of the coolest graphics packages we've seen, very much of an homage to a little bit of history in motorsports. But Smedegaard to the top now. The only guy sub 139, Kyle. He's at a 138.9, 3/10 quicker than O'Gorman. But Houghton's still right there. Thorne now sits in that 4th spot. Then Waldbaum in 5th. James in 6th. Meadows is in 7th. Solomon is 8th. Rosenberg still right there. And Andrew Raines right there in that top 10.
Not a bad run for Rosenberg and Raines inside the top 10. That's great to see. Eric Meadows, that is Luke McGrew's old car that Eric Meadows, or not, actually, Eric's in the right car. I'm thinking of Justin Lee is in Luke McGrew's old car. But Eric Meadows is back running GLTC. A lot of those NC Miatas out there running around here. We've got a handful of them, Lee and Meadows.
You pointed out that great thing on the ex-Luke McGrew car where all he did, he left Luke's name on it above it. He said, not
McGrew. It still has, I gave them SimTV stickers a couple of years ago. Stickers are still on it, so that's great to see. We're missing Luke McGrew and Eric Catil this week. They're both rebuilding new builds. Luke with a Corvette, Catil with an EG sedan, which is going to be very kind of JTCC style, really neat looking car. Hoping we'll see that at Autobahn, but not totally sure sure when we'll see that car pop up just yet. But a couple of drivers that were here last year that we are missing this weekend. Smedegaard continues to roll around, still at the top of the order, but it's, as you mentioned, Greg, Smedegaard, O'Gorman, Houghton, Thorne, Waldbaum. That top 5 is a group that we expected to see there. Kerry James, though, again, a phenomenal run. He shot out of a cannon back in 2020 at Road America in one of his first races with us and nearly won. Ended up in a gravel trap in 14 while going for the win. But Kerry is really bringing the heat this weekend.
Yeah, he's got pace. You watch him. He really is very quick, very smooth. There's a car that just flashed through the other frame. I've been talking about the inclusion aspect of Grid Life.
Yeah, that is Patrick Reyes in this number 68, this brightly kind of daffodil and sunflower and whatever other kind. There's definitely a kind of flower there. So I don't know the exact details, but I do know that there is an artist that created this design that Reyes is running here this weekend, and that artist is Takashi Murakami. And great to see Patrick running here this weekend in a brand new livery for a not new race car. He's had that for some years, but it looks so good out there on track.
And a matching livery, we might add, for a not too new pit scooter.
Yes, matching pit vehicles. I know the Jensens have one like that as well. That's a flex down there in the pits if your pit vehicle matches your race car. That's neat.
Look there at Smedegaard, who just continues to put in some really nice laps. The last one he turned, it was a cool-down lap. So I'm trying to see if he's back on it solidly here.
Jeremy Swenson and Paul Curley jumped to 6th and 7th on the board. So the G-Speed Corvettes up into the mix. Viking Performance on board both those cars. So Swenson and Curley into the mix. They were asked yesterday how fast they thought they were. They said slow. And if you remember, I know last year, Greg, you weren't here, but Swenson was running a different tire, a street tire here that promptly got it banned because it was so fast out of the gate. So Swenson is certainly capable of winning races here, but we'll see what he can do if he starts 6th in race 1, if results hold. 53 cars have taken the racetrack. 51 of them have taken times. Nick Sarter and David Rudzinski have not posted times in this session.
Yeah, Swenson, of course, the defending champion in GRIDLIFE Touring Cup. And last year at the Midwest Fest, he had a win, a 2nd, and a 3rd, and then one off finish where he was 12th. So even with that big vet, he gets around here and races it well here.
Certainly, and again, we should also point out that typically our sessions are 15 to 20 minutes. Not this one. We're going for another 20 or 25 minutes to get everybody time to race. There's Ryan Christoph. That's a 1986 Honda CRX. Not a ton of CRX left on it. It's tube framed, which is allowed in GRIDLIFE Touring Cup. I think it's a 5% weight modifier to run a tube frame chassis, but it can't be built specifically for the series. It has to come from another series. But I talked to Ryan this morning with the new street tire rules. He had to change a lot of the front end geometry to fit everything under there, and he custom designs and builds and machines his own parts for this car along with his team, Ryan Christoph Racing. They put so much effort in so much. You look at the inside, the hub and the front frame assembly. It is such a pretty job. Self-machined parts. That is incredible. That's the top tier of that garage racing that we like to talk about. There are shops that build cars. There's teams that build cars, and then there's groups of friends that build cars, and that's what this is.
That's what that is. And I think it started life, didn't it, as a GT Light or a GT4 car?
SSTL, I think.
SSTL. Oh, okay.
Is where it came from. So, but yeah, it's he raced it over in the SCCA for a little while, brought it over here, and it's had varying degrees of success. But he's just having the most fun he can have, and he's an instructor with our HPDE program as well. So he's just here hanging out and having fun with us and getting some track time in addition.
And watch him get this thing rotated when he gets through, and that's one of the nice things with the front drive cars. You can really pivot it on the nose, and then you just point the wheels where you want to go, start to feed it some throttle, and he gets this car around this track quite well.
And dimensionally, it's tiny.
Yeah.
I mean, you can fit 3 of these in the back of the HMA car, right? The Honda Odyssey. You can pack those in there like TV boxes. But
we used to ice race those up north in Minnesota, Wisconsin, in Minnesota, and they were so great because a lot of the ice tracks were a little tight, and you could just get those things to rotate and go so incredibly well. And Ryan, in particular, let's see if we're following him when he gets down in that turn 5 and 6. We may cut away, but he just gets that car to really pivot beautifully.
Yeah, there's a look at Nick Sarter. He's had a couple starts with us in the past, running one of these E46 M3s. Now, talking about these E46, this is one of the spec E46 cars. Talked to Bill Griffin on a track walk on Wednesday night, and he was mentioning Steve Pruden, who's also here in one of those spec E46 cars. They run those over in another racing series, and that car is so malleable to almost any rule set in North American grassroots level racing. They've got a handful of these cars here this weekend. You can see the banner on the roof. There's plenty of them around here, and they're easy enough to transfer from series to series. A lot of fun. I mean, the more track time, the better. It doesn't always have to be with Grid Life. All grassroots racing is great racing, and we're just happy to have them here on our grid this weekend.
Yeah, and the thing about grassroots racing is everybody has to start somewhere. And, grassroots racing is where a lot of people cut their teeth. Some people stay in it forever, and I get it. It is so much fun, and you're just, it's like a camping adventure at a racetrack. And so you're, doing everything you love, and you get to go out and drive a car fast. Some of them are, they're really good, and they can move up and start going into other forms of racing. But the ones that stay forever, they're the ones that you want to wander around the paddock at the end of the race day, find a campfire with about 5-6 people around there bench racing, and just sit down and listen.
I love calling racing, Greg. That's one of my favorite things to do at the end of the day. Is go hang out. Was just taking a look at the 261 at Brad Kosiba for Seba Motorsports out of Noblesville, Indiana. That's a 99 Mazda Miata. Jeremy Swenson, a little slow there on the straightaway. Not sure if that's a problem.
But he's up to third. I think he's just cooling it down. He just uncorked a good one.
Yeah, he's offline, so he's going to let a couple drivers pass. But yeah, third place. That's inside row 2. So that's a great place to kick off, and now he's moving back to driver's left and setting up. This is going to be another flyer, I think, here, Greg.
I think you're right.
And he's got Paul Curley right behind him as well. So those two Viking Performance Corvettes, line astern, they're going to kick off a lap here following Jake Price in that purple and black Miata just ahead of him. We'll see if they catch him.
And Curley, sitting top 5 right now, so he's looking for a little bit more, too. And for Swenson, when he gets going, obviously with the weight and power of that vet, we talked about it before. The more power you have, the straighter you want the car before you really start to feed it too much throttle, so you don't torture the tires. And for him, he understands that in a race he goes out early, gets a lead built up if he can, because he knows everybody's going to come back at him. In qualifying, he knows I need to do it in 1, maybe 2 laps, because I'm going to just overheat things a little bit. And he's got this down to a science. I mean, he did win the championship last year. It was close fought right to the end.
It was close fought. Yeah, and he did. He is our reigning champion in the series, and kicked off a weekend at COTA, grabbing a victory there. So off to a good start this season, running reasonably well in points. I think he'd like to have a bit more success than he has had. He's been in the mix, certainly, but not quite the dominant force that he was at the tail end of last season at some of the bigger racetracks. But if he can get out front, you always know, Greg, at any racetrack, you get to the driver, that's one thing, passing's another. If Jeremy gets in front of those ASM S2000s, it's going to be a very different story. How he gets in front of them, that's going to be fun to watch.
Yeah, well, absolutely it is. But he is the master of a clean defense. And we've seen him do that many times when he gets out, builds that margin, and then everybody starts coming back at him when those tires get a little bit tortured. And I think the one thing that might help him this year is, he would be out on those street tires, so he churned through them pretty quickly. Other drivers would be out on the slicks that would last a lot longer, be faster. Now everybody's on that same style of tire, so they're going to, I think that's going to help him a little bit.
Whoa, big slide for, I think it was Jake Jornstad, big moment. That might have been Felipe Gonzalez. Big slide through turn number 1. Getting after it here, and I think that's Adam Gervais fit on the racetrack. Might be going to take a look, see if there's something on the track. He's got a little orange light on top of that car. Everyone will figure it out. Long enough session. We've got time to investigate some things. I think it was one of the 30 BMWs that slid by him on pit exit. That was a little tight there with the blind corner at pit exit. There's a look at Steve Pruden in the 28. That's another one of those spec E46 M3s that we've been talking about. And Steve has put up some good fights back at Mid-Ohio Sports Car Course last August. He was in the mix there, so glad to have him back this weekend.
Yeah, he really did a nice job. Did something just come off the back of his car?
I hope not. That wouldn't be very fun.
Yeah. It may have been something that was already there that he just ran over, too, but definitely saw something moving at the back of the car. So, looking at the current order. Oh, and when I talked to Eric Jensen, he said in the 2 sessions yesterday, the 2 practice sessions, he said he never really went full at it because they were just sorting through some stuff. And he said, and I don't really plan in this third practice to go too hard. I want to save it and really get after it qualifying. Well, he's top 10 right now, sitting at 9th.
Yeah, and again, Eric Jensen, a reasonably new add to our GLTC field. His first event with us was at the National Corvette Museum last year, and he has pretty much, with very few exceptions, made every single round since then, and driving all the way from Trophy Club, Texas, as we mentioned earlier. So they have really committed full to this GRIDLIFE Touring Cup Championship. And again, that's that LS Swap FRS. You got a peek in the engine bay earlier, chatting about how the LS kind of fits in there better than you'd think.
Yeah.
Those boxer engines that come in the FRS and BRZ are pretty wide, so you can fit a lot of stuff in those engine bays. A couple years ago, we had the FR458, which was an FRS with a Ferrari V8 that was in that engine bay, and it was sticking out the top, but it had it in the chest.
Unbelievable.
That was a fun drift kart. But
I bet that was.
Got to see that again at was that race service out in California. We got to check that out. So there's Thomas Moss in the white Miata that just swept through turn number 2 right in front of us here. Minivan, just like a ship in the night passing the horizon over there at the exit of turn 6. And Dustin Barty in the number 24 for Acuity Instruments. And there's Andrew Rains in that number 99. That car was purchased by Fields Auto Works, and they're doing a great initiative to get more women into racing. They're doing a scholarship program to get more women in the GRIDLIFE community their racing license for GLTC. Lisa Keys was a driver that took advantage of that at our track day picnic event a couple weeks ago at Blackhawk Farm. So now she is fully licensed to race in GLTC thanks to that program by the Fields Auto Works team. So that's fantastic. Again, and a big thanks to the Fields Auto Works program for putting that together. And I expect that we'll see more and more women in our series. We're missing, Tiffany Kelly, we're missing her this season, along with Justin Kelly. They are doing some go-karting this season. Too many toes out too far this year for them, but missing Tiffany and a couple others that we've had here in the past, but hopefully they'll be back soon.
Well, when they are here, they are right up into that top 10. So, yeah, they are definitely missed for sure.
Just look at
Andrew had been up in that top 10 earlier. He slipped now to almost into the outside of the top 20, but he may have stopped for a while, cooled everything off, and we'll see if he's going to be able to come back and put one back into the top group.
We haven't seen a ton of shuffling at this point now, and I'd have to imagine I've been honestly very surprised and very happy to say that the track's been relatively clear looking, all things considered. So a lot of people have gotten some very good times. This is Joe Tullo, a new rookie here this season with us. And this is one of his first events in that number 43, a 1986 BMW. And right now he's on track trying to get some times in with a little bit more room to race at the moment. Looking down the rest of the order, sorry, Greg, I just wanted to mention, we just had a look at Zach Lavoie a couple moments ago, the number 42 from ASM running 13th. Zach had a phenomenal run here back at Midwest last fall, and great to see him continue to improve. And Zach is another one of those people that's just such a blast to talk to. And you're going to hear me say that a lot because there's just so many people in this community that make it worthwhile to stop by and have a conversation with. So Smedegard, O'Gorman, Swenson, Houghton, Curley are your top 5. Paul Curley up to 5th with a 39.396. Robert Thorne for ASM and Shaky Dog up to 6th. And Waldbaum, James Jensen, and Jeff Preston in one of the NC Miatas is up to a 10th. I just saw the HMA Racing Hart, Alabama minivan off and slow at the exit of turn 10B. So hopefully they can get back rolling again and head back to pit lane. And speaking of that car, we'd like to... Yeah, there it is. It's creeping up the hill towards turn number 11. And it is currently, I'm trying to find it on the timing and scoring. I think it's down the list a little further, past our 50th spot. Yeah, in 52nd right now, 150.418.
And just to let everybody know, it's 71 degrees right now, but it feels a bit warmer than that at this point. The believe it or not, the humidity's up just a little bit. But still very, very nice. There's a nice breeze blowing, so when you're out, it's comfortable. But the bigger thing in terms of this track is keep in mind that we haven't had a cloud in the sky since really, about 10 this morning?
Yeah.
And so this track is just taking a beating from the sun in terms of heat. And even though it doesn't have a lot of dark pavement on it that really retains heat, it's still going to feel it. And so that obviously hotter things get, slower things tend to get. And then you got those areas like we're just in right there where there's that patching where it does get a little darker. When it's cooler, that's a lot of grip there. But sometimes, I don't think we're at that point in terms of heat, but when it gets real warm, that can actually, the oils out of that new asphalt bake out a little bit, and then it can get a little slippery. But I think right now, that's where they're going to really be finding some great grip.
Yeah, the other thing we should mention is that right before this session, we had the drift cars on track.
Yeah.
And every time we have the drift cars on track, we love watching drift, but they make a mess of the racetrack, throwing marbles everywhere, tire chunks, dust, debris, and we don't always get a chance to clean off the racetrack. So I think later in the session, despite the temperatures rising, we just saw it in a minute ago, Tom O'Gorman behind Joe Tolo. I think Tom's setting up for another go at a fast lap here. We still got some time left in this session, so why not go back out, see if the track's been cleaned up a little bit, and try to run another quick lap. He's got, looks like that's Cameron Recknagel right behind him. Cameron is new this week, Mona Shores, Michigan, in the 1994 Mazda Miata. He's chasing Tom O'Gorman, and not a whole lot of people better on the racetrack to follow than Tom.
I was just going to say, you want to learn how to drive this track, follow Tomo, and you'll get a wonderful lesson as long as you can stick with him.
I was going to say that's the next thing, though, is you have to keep up with him. So far, so good.
Yeah,
up the back straightaway here. Into turn 11 now. Tomo's going to slam the brakes, downshift a couple of gears. H-pattern gearboxes in most of these cars, and then a couple PDK cars that we've seen sometimes with the Porsche Caymans, automatic in the case of the HMA Racing Honda Odyssey. But O'Gorman across the line. This will be the start of a flying lap for the number 94 from ASM and Hawk Performance. Through turn 1 and into turn 2. You mentioned yesterday, Greg, watching him from the grandstands, he was entering turn 2 wildly differently than everybody else on track.
He was, and he was floating he was floating noticeably more speed than anybody else. And then he would make a really abrupt transition over to the approach to 2. And as he got on the brake, he'd feed in massive steering input and get that nose to pin a little bit. And then the back end would start to rotate. He could start feeding it throttle earlier than anybody else and just arc through that corner. It was really a joy to watch. And, I mean, it showed because he was fastest in both of those sessions yesterday. Obviously, Smedegaard was able to come up and pip him for a time, but we'll see what Tomo does right now. Watch here now, the patience. See how long he stays out? Now he turns in.
Whoa, really tight there with Tolo squeezing by.
And Tolos gave him just enough room. I don't know that impeded Tomo much. I'll tell you what, I think his pro racing experience right there, where you get that often in pro racing, you're on a fly or another guy is out getting ready to start one. He'll give you room, but just enough.
I'll bet you Tomo's heart rate didn't go up a single pip there, but I will bet you that Joe Tolo's did in the mirror.
That's a really good point.
Up the back straightaway now out of turn 10B and towards turn 11 to finish up 2.2 miles. It happens just under a minute and 40 seconds. O'Gorman onto the binders again, north of 120 on the back straight here. Tip it into turn 11, get right down to the cone, all the way out to the curb, clip the dust, and across the line will O'Gorman go to provisional pole. Has a 139.2. Can he go faster? A 139.022, just shy of Smedegaard by about a 1/10.
1/10 shy of Smedegaard, and he had that little bit of a moment there. And big credit to that driver. Was Tolo?
Yeah, Joe Tolo, yes.
Yeah, did a superb job of recognizing Tomo was coming. And as the checkered flag comes out, he just, Tolos just kept feeding that input in and stayed a little bit more right, and that allowed Tomo to be able to squirt through. So I think Tomo slowed down immediately after he came through, it looked like, so I don't think he's going to go for another one. He got through before the checker fell, so he could have, but I think he said, that's my shot.
Here's a look at Hans Horpedal in the number 77. That's a Myriad Motorsports car out of Breezy Point, Minnesota, 2001 S2000. This is a new car this season, joining the Myriad Motorsports camp. So we've got almost the same number of Myriad cars, despite the lack of the Kellys, the Team Kelly cars that have run under Myriad Motorsports in the past. But it's Jorenstad, Gonzalez, and Horpedal this season. Gold and black, that is a very pretty car. One car we haven't seen yet, we haven't gotten a glimpse of, is the number 18 of Colton Wade, that really pretty kind of metallic gold livery that we were pointing out. We didn't see him on track yet, and I haven't seen him on the timing and scoring yet, but I haven't really, truthfully, been looking very deep to find him. But I have not seen that car.
I was looking a little bit earlier, and I did I thought I saw him, but he may not have come out.
I don't think he has. Looking down the list,
yep, I think you're right.
So, which is a shame. I hope that whatever is going on, they're getting it sorted. This is a long enough session, and they've got enough time until the race later this afternoon at around 6 o'clock to fix whatever they are. But that would be our 55th car in the grid here this weekend. We started with 57. We don't have everybody on track just yet, but it sounds like the session is pretty much complete, or we're running low on time here. But qualifying, again, always a blast to watch with such a big field. Really impressed with the drivers. They sorted it out very nicely.
I was going to say that too. I don't recall in that session at all seeing anybody really get hung up behind somebody when they were on a flyer, which tells me not just were the fast guys overtaking cleanly and well, but the guys that were being overtaken for whatever reason, whether they were on a cool down lap or had just come out or whatever, great track awareness to understand, like Tolo did, to understand what was happening. I wasn't on a flyer. He just kept turning into 8 and left that opening for Tom. That's really good track awareness. So kudos. I'll tell you, Adam Jabay, really, his driver meetings are certainly entertaining, but if you really pay attention, all of his points are superb. And everybody seemed to really follow them, and it has paid off.
Well, one car way off in the weeds on the backside of the racetrack is the 527. That's Jackson Jensen. And that car is getting up on the hook. So this car had issues back at COTA. If I recall correctly, there was a chunk of gravel, like a big chunk of gravel on the racetrack that punched a hole in the radiator, and then the car overheated and blew up. So hopefully it's something that happened to this car, and whatever has paused its performance for now is easy to fix, and hopefully Jackson will get on track a little bit later. Again, with 57 cars, we are expecting some attrition by the time we get to race 1, just hoping to keep that to an absolute minimum and have as many cars as possible take the green flag. So.
Well, it's pretty impressive that I think we had 55 cars come out in quali, and if they're working on another car, on a car that didn't come out, could still make the race. We'll just start at the back. So I think the attrition rate, all things considered, has been pretty remarkably light.
It has been, you're right. And so that's great to see. But qualifying provisional results for now: Andy Smedegaard on provisional pole for race number 1. Tom O'Gorman in 2nd, then Jeremy Swenson 3rd, James Houghton 4th, Paul Curley 5th, and Robert Thorne, Matt Waldbaum, Kerry James, Eric Jensen, and Jeff Preston, your top 10. Great run for Preston. Eric Meadows, Matan Rosenberg, Zach Lavoie, Ryan Christoph, Ronnie Solomon, your top 15. Then add Jacob Price, Justin Lee, Lewis Chatroop, Ryan Upham, Andrew Rains, the rest of your top 20. Notable drivers that we didn't see quite as close to the front as we would have thought. We mentioned Jackson Jensen, 31st. Joel Morrison, 33rd. We would expect him to be up there a little bit closer. Cameron Recknagel, with how fast he was chasing Tomo, only 38th quick for him. Hans Horpedal, 42nd. And a couple others that we typically see a little closer to the front. Looks like David Rudzinski in that number 51 Chevrolet S10 didn't quite get the lap that he needed, a 1:55.179. We were hoping that he'll get the green flag at least once and at least put some effort in for the racing this weekend. He's tried so hard, worked for weeks on end to get onto the racetrack here this weekend. On track right now is going to be our next track battle group, Greg, but go ahead.
I just wanted to point out that Ryan Christoph, when we were watching him, he was outside of the top 20 at that point, and he finished that session with a 14th qualifying run. So late in that session, he found a nice chunk of time. So really good job for him at this point. And as you said, we are quickly transitioning to some time attack track battle activity.
Yeah, track battle coming up here in just a couple of minutes before we roll into our next group of track battle cars. We've got a couple Hyundai Elantra NTCs that are going to head on track. You see them in the background. Those are getting ride-alongs here this weekend. But that's what's coming up here in just a moment. So cars rolling here and waiting for kickoff for our track battle Group A. So this is going to be our schedule for the rest of the afternoon. It's going to be track battle, followed by Group B. Then it's going to be, actually, this is probably HPDE is what's happening right now, Greg. We're going to have a short intermission
period.
That
makes sense, yeah.
So HPDE, then it'll be track battle Group A, and then we'll be heading into a short break with our backpack man. We'll have Greg Bucell carrying a backpack around the grounds here at the GRIDLIFE Festival. So if you're going to have to transition over to Twitch to follow that. Again, we're streaming across a whole bunch of channels. We're on Twitch, YouTube, and Facebook, but the full stream in its entirety, including the backpack man, will be on twitch.tv/GridLifeOfficial. So make sure you head over there to catch the full deal. We'll be back with GLTC again at 4:40. That will be our first race of the weekend. Then it's Drift, Track Battle, and then our second race before we go back to Backpack Man Greg Bucell for the end of the competition today. We'll be back again tomorrow with plenty more, Greg. But looks like we're going to have a very short break before we head into that Track Battle session in just a little while.
Sounds good.
At 303, we're always chasing perfection. Protect your ride with graphene nanospray coating. Now, boost protection, shine, and slickness with Graphene Detailer. Level up your detailing game. Harness the power of graphene with 303.
Ooh. Call Logano. Hey, Joey, you can save money if you fill up at Shell if you use Advanced Auto Parts Speed Perks.
Dude, I'm way ahead of you.
You saved at the pump?
Yeah, I saved at the pump.
The pump?
The pump.
He saved at the pump!
Woo! Now you can save at the pump when you shop at Advance Auto Parts. Learn more at advanceautoparts.com/gas rewards.
Now, it's my turn.
The more power you have, the more grip you have, the more you push the limits, the more stopping power you need. Get race-proven technology. Hawk Performance.
Hey, we still on this weekend for a little?
You know it. I'm in desperate need of some.
What about you, Jim?
No, my sister's getting. Yeah, dun da da. The wedding. She's getting married, so.
When adventure calls, make sure you're ready to answer. Stable 360 ethanol treatment is specifically formulated for year-round use, so your engines will be ready when you are. Ready, willing, stable.
We've been powering the American road since before it was paved. Our first breakthrough in motor oil was introducing it. And we've been reinventing it ever since. From the world's first high-mileage oil to the world's first synthetic blend. There are those who change with the times, and those who drive them. Valvoline, the original motor oil.
Ferris Cartoony, 183, and sets a blistering new track record.
Coverage of Grid Life Midwest is brought to you by eBay Motors. Let's ride. And by Momo. Made in Italy since 1964. Grid Life Midwest is back and ready to go track battling here. Time Attack Group A up next from GingerMan Raceway in South Haven, Michigan. The biggest festival and the greatest spectacle in Midwestern motorsports. Hi, everybody. Kyle Heyer, joined by Greg Kramer for our first real showing of the Group A cars this weekend, the fastest of the fastest in Midwestern Time Attack. And actually, to that point, Time Attack cars from all around the country are here. Over 100 of them across 7 different classes. Some great action we're about to see. Cars like Ferris Cartoony, who's out of Dallas, Texas. Will I Young is going to be back out with us this weekend in an Acura RSX in street mod, or track mod rather. Some of the fastest North American Time Attack cars are here, as well as some of the other categories, like the Falcon Club TR class that brings in a very kind of GLTC style car that runs about a 140 around here. But some of the quick cars you see, Ferris Cartoony right at the pointy end of the grid, that black Corvette, 183, you heard it in the intro. That was his max speed headed into turn 5 at Road America, Greg. He's not going to quite do 183 here, but that thing is still wicked fast.
It is. It's unbelievably fast, and pretty much everywhere he goes, he usually ends up setting the fast time, if not a record. I mean, in the third session that they went out, he turned a 129, a 129.2. Only person that's been underneath a 130 here, and that is booking around a 2.21 mile track with 11 turns, and it's fairly serpentine. But one of the things that I love about these unlimited cars, look at the wings, look at the diffusers, and that doesn't even account for what's under the hood or outside of it in a lot of these cars where you've got piping from turbos and the like. But, you know, you talk about the garage build cars, we used to call it backyard engineering. And that's what this group is all about. These cars are just absolutely staggering in terms of performance. And in terms of the aero on these cars, when we see Ferris's car out there, look not only at the rear wing, you can see it from here. Look how big that overhang is. And the plane on that thing, talk about sail area if he goes the other way. But the front, the width of that splitter and the extension of that splitter, what they are after here, they've got monster power in these cars. But to really make a fast lap, you need the grip to go with it, and that comes through a lot of this aero applications that they use. It is a tinkerer's dream category.
That's a great way to describe it here, Greg. Let's have a look at the racetrack, GingerMan Raceway. For people outside of the Midwest region, they might not have heard or have ever seen this racetrack, but here's a look at it. 2.21 miles, built back in 1995, relatively flat. As you mentioned, Tom O'Gorman said this place has texture, not really elevation in the true sense of it. Turn 1, a left-hander, second gear, maybe third for some cars into turn 2, very, very flat. Then a sweep up to turn number 3, a short straight here, hard on the brakes, a little bit more than a 90-degree turn. Fast through turn 4, kink to the left, then 2 left-handers, 5 and 6 together, up to turn 7. Then you're going to carry that speed all the way around the rim at 7, flick back into 8 and into 9, and then down the hill into 10B, on the binders into a blind crest or blind down the hill corner into 10B, climb back up through another kink and into turn 11. That's where your VMAX is going to happen, is entering that braking zone for these fast Time Attack cars. I think Cartoony is going to be north of 160 heading over there before the turn back onto the front straightaway. So you see Dewey DeWitt lining up. That's that number 70 Subaru Impreza L that's getting lined up here. That's a street-modified car that's been around for a while, so Dewey's going to go back out there and try to rip. The red and white Mazda Miata, that is a K-swapped Mazda Miata from the K-Power Industries camp. They're part of the reason why you see so many K-Series engines in pretty much everything. They're based just outside of Chicago and do a lot of engine swaps and make a lot of parts for engine swaps. They recently finished their engine swap kit for the FRS BRZ, which everyone keeps telling me I need to do.
Well, I mean, and what they've sort of become known for, haven't they, is engines that have excellent power for whatever category they're in, but more importantly, reliability and much cheaper to rebuild and repair. And I mean, you know, if you're in a category like this, even though you're spending a lot of money on power and aero and the like, anywhere that you can possibly trim expenses, you're going to welcome. And if you can do it with a reliable performer, that's gold, and that's what they have become known for. And for those of you that, when you're watching some of these cars, if you're not really, we talked about it before, not super familiar with the concept of aerodynamics, and you'll see now on some of the newer cars, the wing supports for those big rear wings come up over the top of the wing, and the wing suspends underneath it. And it looks different because a lot of the cars have the old support where it just attaches to the bottom of the wing. But most of the downforce comes from the underside of the wing because essentially it's a flipped over airplane wing, and it's the air that moves over the top of an airplane wing that gets sped up and accelerated off the back, creates a massive low pressure area that generates lift. Well, if you want downforce or stick, you flip it over. So now they figured out if we have the supports coming up and over the top and attaching, cleans the air up underneath, even more effective on that downforce generating wing. And so these innovations just continue, and they creep into every level of the sport.
And that's one of the things I love about the street modified category and the unlimited category is the creep of the speed of the cars. I have the records page pulled up here, the overall GingerMan track records in the dry track. The unlimited class records, Ferris Khartoumi has the rear-wheel drive record here, a 124.116. That was set last fall here at Midwest Festival. Professional Awesome has a 124.485 in all-wheel drive, but in the unlimited front-wheel drive category, Will I Young has the overall fastest ever lap here at GingerMan Raceway in GridLife, a 123.775 in back at that point it was a Honda Civic. That was back in summer 2018. That car eventually ended up crashing at Road America back in 2019, I believe. Big off, entering turn one, had something break. Car shot left straight into the concrete at the end of the run. That car was absolutely totaled, but they have rebuilt. Vibrant Performance is here this weekend with Will I Young. They're going to be running a track mod car with Will behind the wheel, an Acura RSX, but Will is physically here, and that 123.775 still stands as the fastest lap here in GridLife. So fantastic to see Will back here with us in GridLife, even if it's not in an unlimited class car. Track mod, we're seeing times as quick as 126.993. Hey, guess what? That's also Ferris Khartoumi. He had a condition last year where he could basically switch his tires out and swap between the classes, so he just got all the records.
Nice. Yeah, well, and the guy wheels pretty well, too. I mean, you know, Ferris understands the whole concept of getting it done. And he's a great race fan, too. He was at the Miami Grand Prix, the Formula One race. So he just, you know, has a passion for it and gets after it. But in a way, I'm not surprised that the fastest lap ever turned here was from a car that maybe you wouldn't think of as being an outright speed demon. But this place is serpentine and big, powerful, heavy. Not necessarily the best suited to this track, something a little nimble, and if you boost it up or whatever they did with that car and really had it working, that makes sense because you're going to be able to rotate and get through this stuff really, really well. So
you could say it was boosted.
Yeah, okay.
I think it
within an inch of its life.
They could make diamonds with the pressure they have in the intake of that car. I think that thing was insane, and it continues to be the Vibrant Performance. They really lay it all out on the line when they build their time attack cars. Other records to keep an eye on in street mod, the rear-wheel drive category. Jackie Ding had that, a 132.008. And we should also keep an eye on Alex Lee, who's going to be in the number 86 for PhD Racing. Again, Jackie couldn't make it here this weekend. Alex, typically the crew chief on that car, getting a chance to get behind the wheel and go after it in street mod this weekend. So we'll see what Alex can do in that car. It's glad to have him finally get behind the wheel and give that car what he's got. Street GT, Alex Arteat has the record here at a 136.923. I have a feeling that's going to fall this weekend. There's a lot of competitive Street GT cars.
What was it, a 136?
A 136.923 in street mod.
Alex himself, he's already within half a second of that.
There you go.
It's that close.
Yep.
So, and it's Andy Vocal in the number 34 that uncorked a really good one, but Cody Hunt at a 136.4.
Yeah, they're creeping up on that, certainly.
Sure are, so.
And again, if we have some street cars in this field, Team Twitch, Joseph Mielke, and Impulse Performance driver cars and teams to keep your eye on as we are rolling cars off the grid here for Track Battle Time Attack at GingerMan Raceway at GridLife Midwest and Ferris Khartoumi. That Batmobile-looking thing with the huge wing on the rear end is going to go very, very fast, and we'll follow along with you as he works his way around. There's the rest of the cars rolling off the grid. Cal Fortner in the Mercedes AMG. That is a brand new build for this season. That's a pretty looking car too. Number 14 with Al's auto body on the side of that car. Cal Fortner just graduated and just finished up a baseball season as well and climbing behind the wheel, and I was joking with his parents that, he's plays baseball at a fairly high level. They were joking that the racers are cheaper. The racing is cheaper, which is kind of funny because that's typically not how it works. But I'm glad they found a balance somewhere.
Yeah, no kidding. I mean, I can understand that with hockey and all the equipment, but, you know, bat and a glove, but there's a lot more to it, obviously. There is Ferris. And one of the things that's so special about Time Attack Track Battle is it's absolutely down to one lap as fast as you can go. So strategy, yeah, I mean, you have to employ some, finding the gap and having the car set up right, but you're not employing a strategy over a 15-minute or 30-minute or hour-long race where you're conserving until the moment's right, and then you go and you run somebody down and pass. This is all about what can I do, what can I extract out of the car, and it is probably the most intense adrenaline pump that you can imagine, because when you decide it's my flyer, you just hang it out there, and it either is fast or it's not. And one of the cool things is about racing and everything is like concours and that kind of stuff. That's subjective judgment, right?
Yeah.
In a race car, clock timing screen doesn't lie.
Well, we're gonna get to see it tell the truth here in a moment.
Here we go.
Ferris Kartoumi across the line, speeds past the start-finish line into turn 1, down a couple of gears. Whoa, a little wide there through the first corner, right out to the edge of the grass, and into turn 2, leans on the arrow, under about 80 miles an hour here, so not a ton of that downforce required. Now exit up towards turn 3, up through the gears. This is where that car is great. Onto the brakes again for turn 3.
Yeah, he was wide of that apex. You can see he could never get back down to it. A little bit wide there too, and he's just pushing right now. And this may be, he wants to push, find out, all right, what kind of grip do I have? And then he's going to adjust accordingly. Again, big swing through there. But, you know, with that kind of arrow in the car, Kyle, when you get up over 60 miles an hour, you're feeling it.
Through turn 7 now and right up to the edge of the racetrack. Rear end is a little bit nervous right now. I think he's lacking grip all around at the moment. Now into turn 8, tucks it in nicely. The arrow's really going to help in this portion of the racetrack. High speed, more air, more better. Into turn 10 now, turn 10B on the brakes, and this is where this car is going to get to stretch its legs a little bit. Through 10B and then up through the gears, a sequential transmission just thundering up the back straightaway and towards turn 11. This car is going to get north of 160. Then he's got to slow it down. Look at the blur of the grass in the background. Into turn 11. Kartoumi going for track records and unlimited here at GingerMan Raceway. Tucks it in tight. Throttles off. What's the time going to be this time through? Race Hero is going to tell us. Cross the line for Kartoumi. Into turn 1, and we're waiting for the timing to update here for us.
And that car, folks, is upwards of 1,000 horsepower. He can tune it however he wants. He can,
he's got a problem. He's pulled off to the side, and we did not see him actually trip the timing, so I'm not sure if there was a transponder issue or something.
Yeah.
Immediately out and then off to the side, so problems there. Gltc does a 133.322 in track mod. That's what the orange indicator is. There's the 314. And Dewey with a 134.291 in the number 70. There's your class key. But again, Kartoumi laid down what looked to be very fast and then limped to the side.
Yeah, not sure what happened. He came through 1, and it looked to me like he was just, okay, I completed a flyer. I'm going to slow down, cool things off a little bit. And then as soon as he exited 2, he pulled hard right to the edge of the track. And I thought, all right, he's just making sure he's not in the way of anybody. And then just pulled off and parked it. And that's never a good sign.
Well, track modified, the best record, the fastest record in all-wheel drive is a 131.977. Gltc has it from fall 2019. He's a couple seconds off. You see him heading down the hill at 10B and back up again.
Tomorrow is supposed to be upwards of 5-6 degrees cooler than it is today and a little bit less humidity. And so if they're getting in this window on a day like today, I think tomorrow we could see some really impressive times as well.
Again, there's a really weird temperature correlation. Cooler temperatures generally grippier, as we got a yellow flag waving in turn 2, but tires don't like to be cold. They like to be warm to somewhat hot. They don't like to be overheated. There's a very precious zone of grip that you need to find. Gltc does not go any quicker, a 33.322. Dewey still stays at a 34.291. And the yellow flag waving, and it looks like Khartoumi is sort of stuck way by there. It looks like that's Mike Amick heading by. That's another street modified car, the Subaru Impreza, a 325, puts him third overall, second in street mod so far. Cal Fortner up to a 36.941. Now Fortner again thinks he can really be competitive in the street modified category, and currently sits, was that 5th or 6th in class at the moment? Looks like P6.
Yep.
And here's a look at the 106. That's Jason Kanakri in a McLaren 600 LT.
Beautiful looking car, isn't it?
That's bringing a gun to a knife fight if I've ever seen one.
Yeah, that is a serious bit of kit right there, folks.
Ooh, chasing David Calzada in the Unlimited Miata. And you see the Unlimited, the red, on the timing and scoring next to the 174 Calzada. That's what that means. There's a look at Fortner for a moment. Back to Kanakri. And again, you might look at this car and say, well, that's, street modified. Well, that's essentially a stock McLaren. Well, let me tell you something. When you're building a car to compete in street mod, it's not inexpensive. And there are probably cars here. I'm going to look at Dewey's as a car that's seen many evolutions. That car, if you were to buy it right now, probably wouldn't be the cost of that McLaren, but over its lifetime, well, that's money that gets dumped into it. Yep. It's certainly equivalent or greater. But look at that, sailing past Cal Fortner, who's on a cool down for a moment. Kanakri's going to sail off into turn number 11 now on the binders here. Likely carbon ceramics behind the front wheels in this thing. Little wiggle on exit, across the line. Kanakri in street mod again. That street modified rear wheel drive record's a 32.0, and a couple seconds off of 134.759 still.
Ooh, big wiggles there too. That back end is definitely a little bit loose right now.
But mid-engine balance, there's something to be said for that, right? That's not a common layout in regular, I'm doing air quotes, regular track cars. You see a lot of front engine rear wheel drive. Here is Alex Lee behind the wheel. Alex competing for PhD Racing in lieu of Jackie Ding being here this weekend. Lee sails off into turn 1, and this car does hold the street modified rear wheel drive record at a 32.0. That's the time I mentioned a moment ago. And again, this car has 2 modes. There's a switch. You can flip it to kill mode, get it 600 horsepower north of that, and it really does haul. And I think they might just leave Ferris out there. He's not in a terrible spot, so they're just going to let people go. Still early in the session, let some people get some laps, and then go out and try to salvage that car.
I would have thought that would have been labeled differently. The switch is, fast and then like insane or stupid fast or.
It's not a Tesla. Jackie's tried that before. He did bring a Tesla Model 3 here last year and ran that in street class, I think. That was reasonably good. I think the problem they had here was there's not a lot of charging infrastructure.
I was going to say, yeah.
So that was a challenge. We were in an RV that was on the same outlet as that car when it was charging. We flipped on a teapot to boil some water, and it killed the whole side of the track. so that, that was eating a little bit of, there's something very loud, very close. They're running an engine over here, Greg.
Yep,
but
they just fired up in a paddock right next to us here.
The sounds of GRIDLIFE Midwest are all around. The 86 now, Alex Lee up on the back straightaway. Again, best time this session of a 35.994, about 3 seconds off of the best that this car has ever run.
And keep in mind, right, this is the guy who's normally the crew chief, not the driver, so I think he's doing an incredibly good job.
And I wonder how much that plays in, right? Because if you have your hands on the car a lot, it's got to be really intriguing to jump in and now feel all the adjustments you've been making, right? Because it's one thing to make adjustments on the car and know what to play with to get a certain response. It's another to actually feel it. And maybe Alex feels something different that Jackie doesn't feel, or Jackie feels something that Alex wouldn't see. So there's a lot of communication that has to happen, and why I think it's important to have a second set of hands on a race car, just to get a second opinion. I think they're going to learn a lot by having Alex in the car this weekend.
I think so too. And one of the things that can sometimes happen is when you get the crew chief, the mechanic, and engineer or whatever behind the wheel of a car, every once in a while, they will never go as fast as the driver simply because they've got mechanical empathy. And they are, this thing's beautiful, I don't want to tear it up. And the driver goes, hey, if I tear it up, you're there to fix it, And so my job is to drive it as fast as I can. Their job is always to make sure that car is fast and healthy. And every once in a while you see that. Now, of course, a guy like Mark Donohue is the exception to that rule, certainly. But that plays a role in. But I agree with you. I think it's a really good idea every once in a while to get the guy who's doing the wrenching on the car out and driving it, pushing it a little bit, and then make changes and then get back in it and go, all right, so when he says this is what he's feeling, now I get it, you know. And because the biggest thing, you know, one of the biggest components of speed in a car, and I've often said there are two things. One is confidence, and the other thing is communication with whoever's doing your setup.
Absolutely.
Those are the two things that are going to make you fast, assuming you've got the skill to be fast to start with. Having that understanding is never a bad thing.
This is Tianyi Ma in the 377. This is another PhD racing car to Champaign, Illinois. This is a 2016 Porsche 911 GT3 RS in our track modified class. So it's currently chasing Puglisi at the top of the board. Now we'll see if Ma can go any quicker this time around. I think he's backed it down maybe a little bit. 37.714 was his previous best. It doesn't look like he'll go any quicker that time around. So Ma heads into turn one, now cools the car down just a touch. And you'll notice a lot of things are quiet here at the tail end of these Group A sessions. I can tell you why. One, there's a car on track that they're recovering, so people don't want to get on track and have their lap scrapped from safety crews. Also, a lot of the fast cars are really only good for a lap or two. These cars are not designed to run a full session. They're designed to go out and run one lap. They don't score you based on your average lap time or how many laps you did. It's what was your fastest.
Yep.
And sometimes the fastest lap is only going to be one, and it's going to be one lone lap, not necessarily after 2, 3, or 4 when everything heat soaks. So it's important to just get out there, run a single fast lap, and be perfect. And you see a lot of those time attack drivers, when they come from time attack to GLTC, they carry with them that perfect lap mentality, and they end up crushing qualifying. Jeremy Swenson's a great example. James Houghton's a great example. Came from time attack, get to GLTC in qualifying, and they're right at the top of the board.
Absolutely, especially when you've got single car top 10 shootout qualifying. They're very comfortable with that, and that pays off. But here's the thing. When you're doing a setup for a car to be fast on one lap, you're going to really rake a lot of camber into the car, both front and rear. You're going to be doing all sorts of things. That's great for that one, maybe two really fast push laps. But then it just eats the tires up. It eats everything up on the car. And within a couple laps, you're just going slow anyway because there's nothing left to give. And so the setup in a car between a race and a outright track battle setup, it's just much more aggressive for the track battle setup. But that means that the car goes, in terminology, off much quicker, and then you're just trundling around anyway.
So we mentioned a moment ago that there was a lot of noise off to our right. Well, this is the source of the noise. This is the Formula Supra, and this is, I believe, Ryan Turk's car. Yes, it is. So Ryan Turk running this Formula Supra. Now, what they mean by Formula Supra, well, this is going to run in Formula D. It has a Formula 1 engine sourced power plant under the hood.
Oh, wow.
So it's a V10 power plant. And it makes a lot of noise, as we heard. It sounds amazing, but he's just going out for a little hardship lap. The Group A was just checkered because of the cleanup, so we're going to let Turk run a little hardship lap here, then we'll get Group B rolling. But this is a cool car.
Serious.
V10 Formula 1 roots, and then throw it in under the hood of a Supra and go drifting with it.
That's incredible.
I actually saw Turk. He came up to me in registration to register this car in Unlimited as well. I'm not sure if it was this car or if it was another one. I mean, it has to be this car. I'm not sure if he's going to run it in time attack as well as drift, but he came up to, I was shocked. I'd never seen him run time attack with us before. So, I'm hearing that this is for time attack. So, wow.
Wow. And with very little aero on it. So he's got immense power underneath that, and instant on that V10. When you go to the throttle, it's there and you could hear it. But not with a lot of aero, and so that's going to be interesting to keep those rears underneath that.
Yeah, I'm curious what the suspension geometry looks like, because as I imagine this car is set up to drift at some point.
I would think.
So, you do a lot of funky things with suspension geometry to get the car to stay sideways most of the time.
Especially with the front turning radius.
Right, and I just have to wonder how much of that is in its final form for drift versus running this as just a normal track car. Because the two things, while we meld all those communities together here, the builds involved with drift, pops and crackles. That's great. The builds involved in drift and time attack and GLTC are wildly different. That's great, but when you try to jump from drift to GLTC to time attack, you have to change a lot of things. And this is one of those cars you'd have to throw the whole thing out and start over. But he's giving it a shot. But just running a hardship lap.
And the smart thing is they may have just used this as a test. Just entered it in time attack just to test it. As we see Ferris Khartoumi's car getting back in on the short leash.
Yeah, I hope that there's not a lot broken on that car. Again, it's a real shame to see that car have issues so early this weekend and with so much potential. Man, that thing sounds good off the distance, doesn't it? I mean, there's something about no replacement for displacement. There's got to be something about that for cylinder count too, right?
Yeah, oh, absolutely, and noise. I mean, you know, and believe me, I love the sound of a throaty V8, but I'm sorry, but you give me a Ferrari V12, I'll take that any day of the week just because of the scream. It's just impressive.
So
he's not near on the throttle.
No, I think this is just testing things out, given probably a hardship lap. This is kind of at the checker of the Group A session. I think Rob Dom's got a 4-rotor here that he was going to take on track just to trial. So I think we'll see that at some point this weekend here, probably just on a hardship lap basis. But yeah, Turk just giving it a rip here to see if everything's working and running. And it's probably the first time this car has been on a racetrack.
Yeah.
It's a brand new build.
Boy, those 4 rotors. You think this car's loud.
That's what I thought it was when it fired up. It was so loud. I was like, what is that? But it's so loud that you almost can't tell what it is because it's just noise at that point when you're within 20 feet of it. But, you know, tight paddock spacing down here. That paddock is right next to us. So cool sounds for sure. Waiting on Group B here in GRIDLIFE Track Battle Time Attack. Kyle Heyer joined by Greg Creamer for GRIDLIFE Midwest coverage here in 2022. Glad to be back with you for Midwest Festival in our traditional June date. If you've been following GRIDLIFE the past couple of years, we shifted 2020 and 2021's festivals to the fall to hopefully push back and keep COVID from being a major factor in the attendance. But with all that thankfully kind of down and kind of out of the minds for a little while, we've got this back at our traditional date, and it has been a wild success so far. You have to be here to feel the energy. There's so many people roaming the paddock, and when the sun goes down tonight, the party starts off the racetrack as well. So very excited. Cars are rolling here in Group B, and here comes Ben Lynn and more on track. Ben Lynn, again, is in that Advanced Auto Parts Mitsubishi Evo 9. That is for Gears and Gasoline. He and Ben Thorne have a YouTube channel called Gears and Gasoline. They've done some of the best GRIDLIFE-related YouTube content you could possibly watch. And they've got some other great car-related content that you should definitely follow them and subscribe to them and stay in touch, because those guys know what they're doing, not only behind the wheel, but behind the camera.
And it's that kind of stuff that is just giving a rebirth to the interest globally, certainly in North America, in terms of motorsports. GRIDLIFE and its teams and entrants are a big driver of that. There's no question about it. And that's really cool. In the Alex Lee, the street modified, he had the fastest lap in the previous session for Group B, a 136.4.
Okay, so that was a pickup for Alex Lee. Solid time there. Alex Westergaard's back on track. Ben Thorne is on track as well. A couple more of those PhD Supras are out there, I see. Dalton Klein, the 206, that's that orange Corvette. This car's been missing for a little bit. Glad to have Dalton back with us. It's been a little while since we've seen this car take to the racetrack. Klein out of Sheldon, Iowa. That's a 2007 Corvette in our track mod category. And kind of that orange, I think it's called like Sebring Orange. It's got some kind of racing related name, or Sunset, something like that. But, ooh, there's that V10. There it is.
That sounded sweet.
That did, on throttle. Just listen to that.
That, folks, is glorious.
I just want to listen to it now.
Let's.
Man.
That is stunning.
There's a difference. It was only doing half throttle before. At full throttle, it really sings. And heads up towards turn 7. I've never got to see an F1 race live, Greg, but that's almost close enough for me.
You're close.
Another car we should mention, the front-wheel drive Civic that just passed the shot. We'll try to get a look at it. It's the red and white Civic that is just up the road from this group. That is the return of Chris Boersma. Now, Chris is up out of Canada in Bradford, Ontario. Now, Chris has not been with us, I think, since Road America back in 2020. The pandemic kept he and James Houghton from joining us in 2020 and 2021. Chris is with Boersma Racing. This is a 1999 Honda Civic in track mod, and this car held a lot of records across a variety of various seasons here in GridLife competition, and this is his first time back in a really long time. Big shout out to Chris. He's been a good friend of mine through the pandemic. We were actually working on a project to pull driver data for. I had basically like a drop down. I could select a driver, pull up all the results. And Chris, part of his day job is he's got some kind of developer gig, and he helped me build that. And it was really kind of him. I hadn't even met him in person until this weekend.
That's really
so
cool.
Really neat to have Boersma back with us this weekend. And this car is really fast, by the way. We should mention that as well. In the track mod category, no longer does this car hold records at this particular racetrack, but he's going to try to reset them here off into turn number 11. We'll follow Boersma for a lap. And he'll kick things off. The K-Tune sponsored Honda Civic onto the front straightaway. This car's got a ton of aero on it as well.
That does.
Talk about high-strung turbocharged engines, though. This thing is revving out across the line into turn 1 for Boersma. Tucks it in tight, throttles up. I think this car made about 700 horsepower at one point. I'm not sure if that's still where it is, but it makes a plenty.
Yeah, well, especially for its weight, and thus that very aggressive aero on it.
I think that was the play. Ben Lynn at the top of the board in street class, a 136.388. Feingold in the 623 right behind him at a 37.250 in street. Again, the blue is your street class, orange is track mod, teal is your street modified. And of course, Boersma is in the orange track mod class. You see him right now, 39.6. That was just a warm-up lap. We'll see what he can do in going at it.
And that time by Lynn right now, not only is it the fastest, I believe, street time that has been put up, it's also quicker than Alex Lee's time from yesterday, or from this morning. So that's a great lap by Lynn.
In street all-wheel drive, the previous track record I have here, set in fall of 2021, was a 136.654. So that's actually faster. So Ben Lynn currently has a new track record for the street category here at GridLife and here at GingerMan Raceway. So that's fantastic to see.
Yeah, that's well done.
And this is still really early in the weekend.
Yes, very much so.
Here comes Boersma down the backstretch into turn 11 now. Onto the brakes. Down, you see the sparks flying from the skid boards underneath that car. Probably has those titanium anti-grounding blocks underneath it. Up onto the front straightaway and across the line. Can Boersma pick up from a 39.6? Boersma up to 4th in the session, a 38.3. Puts him 2nd in track mod in this session. Good solid lap. Looks like he'll cool things down now. Bronson McNamer in the 114, down in 6th in track mod. It's interesting to see that we have our track mod and street mod competitors, but ahead of all of them are 2 street class competitors. Now street, in theory, if you were to rank them in terms of average pace, street would actually be behind street mod and track mod. So really solid runs by Feingold and Lynn. The orange BRZ here, this is a K-swapped BRZ out of the ASM camp. Dana Baczynski behind the wheel. They call this KD6. As the homage to the K power plant and the 86 platform.
I love it.
And Dana ran really well. He's in the Falcon Club TR category and currently leading it in this session. Actually, I think he's leading overall as it stands. And Falcon Club TR, he does not have the record in rear-wheel drives. That was Matt Williams at a 39.255. And Baczynski is only 0.8 off of that right now. So he certainly could be a new record holder at the end of the session.
Oh, without doubt.
And trailing through turn number 9, and you actually got a chance to drive. I have a 2013 FRS that is just the base FA20, and you got a chance to drive around here earlier in this platform, and I think you can personally speak to the balance of this 86 chassis, and then you throw the very strong and reliable Honda K-Series engine in it, and that is a true track weapon.
Oh, absolutely it is. Yeah, I mean, the handling and the platform, when I did my laps, you could just feel that, you know, this thing really works well. But that was the one thing about those cars, was with the original power plant, they were just a little underpowered. So you get the right motor in there, that's going to be a really, really stout car. No question about it. The one thing I was going to mention when we were watching Boersma's lap was he was giving himself a lot of room at the exits of corners. So in there alone, I think he could find a second or more, just using a little bit more of that track.
And I think some drivers, as we watch McNeamer here in the Miata, I think some drivers will work up to pace, and some will shoot out of a cannon right out of the early part of the weekend. There is something to be said about holding back a little bit right now. You mentioned the weather tomorrow maybe being a little bit cooler. That's incentive maybe to test out what you got, and then tomorrow set your sights on running the fastest lap. Work up to it, and don't overdrive early in the weekend and break something and then not have the chance when the weather is ideal. That matters a lot more than you'd think. When the track is cooler, the air is cooler, cars make more power, the track is grippier, especially if you get out in an early session when the track is clean. All those things factor into running records. You're not doing these by accident. Every little bit helps and counts when you're talking about conditions, both weather, track, and driver.
Well, and for track battle, it's not like you win the day, you know, or it's not like there's 4 separate competitions. From that first time on track to the last time on track, what counts at the end is the fastest lap you've turned over those 2 or 3 days. And so planning ahead a little bit. So you're out here today, if you think, like we do, like that tomorrow the track should be a little bit faster, today, you're just tweaking on setup. You're working on little things and everything, and you're right. You might not be pushing it 11/10ths by any stretch, and thinking about tomorrow a little bit, just dialing the car up. So, which makes, with Ferris, that's unfortunate because, you know, if he was just tweaking on things, setting things up, but better to find that problem today so we can fix it and then go out when the track's maybe even faster tomorrow.
Definitely. Having a look at the 21, that's Tegan Thorstensen for Radhangs Racing out of Mars, Pennsylvania. That's a 2011 Subaru yes, it is a 2011 Subaru STI, running in the street class and digging after it right now. And when you look at the kind of makes and models that you see a lot of at track days and events like this, you see a lot of Hondas, you see a lot of Mazdas, and you see a lot of Subarus. Now, those that choose the Subaru way, many will say, you know, sometimes have a frustrating time because those boxer engines vary in reliability across the product lineup. But we have a well-tuned and well-balanced Subaru. They have great all-wheel drive systems, great transmissions, but when it comes to the engine, the power plants, they're just tricky to make fast. So you're relying a lot on built motors and completely stock motors. But you know, I think for some drivers, they just have a Subaru thing. I have a car that's got a Subaru heart, and I really enjoy it, even though it's a little you know, anemic in the middle part of the rev range. But when it comes to Subarus, they sound great. I think they sound really good, and they're 4 cylinders, and they have a very different idea. If you're not familiar with how Subarus work, if you're kind of a casual motorsport or car fan, Subarus, here's another example. Subarus essentially lay out their cylinders flat, so the top of the cylinder is actually moving side to side instead of up and down or at a diagonal like you see in a V engine layout. So a really different way of approaching building an engine, and it gets the center of gravity extremely low. So if you look at the FRS, the BRZ, the 86, that platform, part of the balance is because the center of gravity in that car is so low to the ground. You open the hood, the engine basically feels like it's on the ground. And that's one of the huge advantages of it.
That's one of the reasons that Porsche from day one was always incredibly competitive when it went into the world of sports car racing, is they utilized that boxer and they kept that weight down. And when it was in the back, that was important because if you had that engine higher up in the back of the car, that pendulum would have been way worse. So get that weight down, and you know, they've certainly perfected it. And I mean, my Lord, they're getting out of a 4-liter boxer now. They're getting what, 650 horsepower.
Crazy numbers.
It's exceptional. So
Porsches are like, that doesn't even make sense. Like the way that they put the engines in the back behind the axle, that doesn't even make sense from an engineering standpoint. It's like they've broken the space-time continuum and like found some loophole in physics. But they just continue to be some of the best cars, you know, not only for track days and kind of pleasure driving, but also at the high-end motorsports level, pro racing. You look at Porsche's history in motorsports, decades and decades of experience, variety of makes or of models of Porsche, and they're all successful.
All successful. And I'll tell you what, though, back in that era of those fire-breathing 935s, which were short wheelbase, monstrously huge fat tires, and they had twin turbos bolted onto those things, were making ridiculous power. The guys that drove those were special.
Yeah.
That could extract everything out of those cars because you always had to be driving with that big lump, as you said, behind that axle. And the balance of the car wasn't great. So the guys that figured out how to drive them fast, they were something special. And then, you knew anything they drove was going to be there. And Porsche has worked over the years. Now the RSR that races in IMSA and in World Endurance Championship, they've now moved the engine up in front of that rear axle line. But all the other cars, the GT3s and the GT Cup cars and the street cars, still have that, behind there. But they've worked the suspension enough that they've got that so it handles much more like a mid-engine car, even though the lump's still back there. Here we go again.
Yeah, V10 just fired up. I don't know if that's coming through. I wouldn't be able to tell you because I can't hear anybody giving us that feedback. There's Dalton Klein on a cool down. We just saw Ben Thorne with the Valvoline livery for the Gears and Gasoline camp. He just came across the line. Did not improve, but keep your eye on the gray in the timing tower. That's Basinski and Thorne. That's your lead battle in the Falcon Club TR class, and we know that Basinski and Thorne, didn't have a lot of head-to-heads with them last season. They didn't make a lot of the same events. This is going to be a fantastic show between those two in that Falcon Club TR category. Basinski and Thorne right now only half a second apart as it stands.
Incredibly close, yeah. And as you said, so much more yet to come here. And just keeping an eye out. I don't know if Boersma has gone back out, if he has pulled in. I thought there was more left for him if he wanted it. But again, these guys might be looking ahead a little bit to, boy, that's just disconcerting, isn't it? There's that road on the opposite side of the track, and you see a guy turn in and at speed, and then a pickup truck goes trundling along.
Looks like Time Attack is about wrapping up here, and I think that means for us, let me take a look at the schedule here. Should be checkered flag. Yeah, so we're going to basically roll out of this. We're going to take a break for a little while, and we're going to head to our Backpack Man show here in just a little bit. 4:40 is going to be our GRIDLIFE Touring Cup race number 1. So in just a moment, we're going to take you to break, and we'll be back in a couple minutes with our Backpack Man here from GRIDLIFE Live. Coverage of GRIDLIFE Midwest is brought to you by Momo, made in Italy since 1964. And by Hyundai, it's your journey. And by FCP Euro, every part you buy is guaranteed for life. Coverage of GRIDLIFE Midwest is brought to you by eBay Motors, let's ride. And by Falcon, the Falcon Azenas RT660 is the official tire of Club TR.
We're always chasing perfection. Protect your ride with graphene nanospray coating. Now, boost protection, shine, and slickness with Graphene Detailer. Level up your detailing game. Harness the power of graphene with 303.
Ooh. Call Logano. Hey, Joey, you can save money if you fill up at Shell if you use Advanced Auto Parts Speed Perks.
Dude, I'm way ahead of you.
You saved at the pump?
Yeah, I saved at the pump.
The pump?
The pump.
He saved at the pump!
Woo! Now you can save at the pump when you shop at Advanced Auto Parts. Learn more at advancedautoparts.com/gas rewards.
Now, it's my turn.
power you have, the more grip you have, the more you push the limits, the more stopping power you need. Get race-proven technology. Hawk Performance.
Hey, we still on this weekend for a little...
You know it. I'm in desperate need of some...
What about you, Jim?
No, my sister's getting... Yeah, dun, da, da. The wedding. She's getting married, so...
When adventure calls, make sure you're ready to answer. Stable 360 ethanol treatment is specifically formulated for year-round use, so your engines will be ready when you are. Ready, willing, stable.
We've been powering the American road since before it was paved. Our first breakthrough in motor oil was introducing it. And we've been reinventing it ever since. From the world's first high-mileage oil to the world's first synthetic blend. There are those who change with the times, and those who drive them. Valvoline, the original motor oil.